everyone. Welcome to the Carson City School District Board of Trustees meeting. Today is Tuesday, October 28, 2025. We're going to call our board workshop to order at 6 p.m. And it's agenda item number 1, roundtable discussion among board members and staff addressing the following topic. For discussion only, no action will be taken. Presentation and discussion regarding Pupil Center Funding Plan, PCFP, funds in the Carson City School District, 206 English Learners EL Fund, 207 Gifted and Academically Talented Education GATE Fund, and 208 At-Risk Fund. And at this moment, we will start our workshop. Welcome, Mr. Spencer.
All righty, thank you, Madam President and members of the board. Just continue our workshop series here, going over funds of importance. And so the three we're going to go over today are the what we call the PCFP funds, as you alluded to, Pupil-Centered Funding Plan. These are all very related to the general fund. The funding for these is received on a pure pupil basis based on our student population. It's also it's in relation to the student population of the state in its entirety. So sometimes our funding can fluctuate a little bit depending on how students in other districts identify in any one of the three categories here. It's been, there's been no drastic swings over the last couple of years, some modest increases. And like I say, these are very closely tied to the general fund. These three funds obviously aren't quite, or they're more restrictive than the general fund because we have specific uses we need to use for them. But if the funds that we receive from the state don't cover what we need, then we transfer funds from the general fund to fulfill the mission of these three funds here. So we'll start with the first fund, Fund 206, which is the English Learner Fund. That'll be page 1 of your handout there. And this one, we received $3.3 million of funding from the state. And as you can see, this one is very heavily salary and benefits, even a little bit more so than our general fund is. And $3.1 million of that 3.3 goes directly to salary and benefits for, by and large, people that are in the classrooms. It covers 17 teachers, 26 paraprofessionals, which the majority of... Oh, sorry, I thought I...
We were confused. We wondered if you were going to do a PowerPoint or if we were going to just use the hard copy.
Just the hard copy.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Huh? I just thought I heard a hand raise, that's all. So.
And when Renee talks, we all listen.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Alrighty, so are we all on page 1 of the handout there?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I apologize for those of you in the gallery behind us that it's not up on the board there. But you have a question while we're at a stopping point?
Yeah, I do. So with salaries and benefits, if it's 3.1 and our benefits are going up 6.5% in January, are we going to see an increase? Does the state increase as our expenses increase?
They do not. It's a finite amount of dollars that we get to spend, so that 3.3 million does not change. So we'd have some fluctuations. In a case like this, we'd look and see, are there some program materials and supplies that we don't need necessarily that we can use to offset any increases to the salary and benefits that would happen. And then if there's necessary program material supplies, those could come from the general fund, or in this case, we could, as we amend the December budget, write a transfer into this fund if necessary.
And I think just to kind of set the stage that even if a child qualified for all three of these categories, they're only funded for one.
Correct.
So, I mean, and I think that's important to think about is that, yeah, there's still expenses with some of these kids that aren't associated with the funding now or not funded through the state.
Yes, you could have a child that qualifies for English learners and at risk, but we only get funded for the larger of the two that the student qualifies for. And that is statewide. That's one thing that I think one of those things that kind of works its way through the plan that they're trying to figure out how to best resolve, but solutions aren't present at the time. Alrighty, so just kind of continue with those positions, 17 teachers, 26 in the classroom, parapros. We do have one director and a half of an admin assistant that's split between this and the Gifted and Talented Education Fund. We do have about $50,000 that's in there for professional services. Generally, I think most of that goes towards testing. And then we do have some supply materials that we budget for. And again, in the case of if that was not all spent this year, we could have an ending fund balance in this fund. It's not common, but it could happen. Any other questions about the English Learner Fund?
So just to be clear, the 0.5 administrative assistant is split into two programs?
Yes, it's one full-time person.
One
that's split-
full-time person.
It's
Gotcha.
split between this fund and the Gifted and Talent Education Fund.
Got it. Thank you.
So if you move to page 2 there, that does show us the Gifted and Talented Fund, or GATE Fund as it's commonly called, 207 for those of us that like numbers. This one is funded at $563,000, but that includes transfer from the general fund. The amount that we get from the state in the blue section, the lower portion, is $322,000. We're funded higher at some of our peer districts. And then we do transfer in $241,000 to meet the needs of the way we've been running our program over the last several years. So
Have we had a discussion about if we change that, like as we're looking at budget reductions, is there a different way that we could provide similar services?
So, not at this point. We haven't had any discussions about it, but I think like everything, there's consideration for it. I know the model we've had in place has been in place for quite some time, and so that could be a fair discussion.
yeah, so this program does run fairly lean as far as we don't have a teacher in each school that is funded from here, even though we have 2 teachers in all of our sites that do, all of our elementary sites that perform GATE services. So for salary and benefits, it covers 2 teachers full-time. And then we have a lot of supplementary salary and benefit costs. We have a GATE coordinator at each elementary school that is in addition to regular salary, supplemental costs, and there's some extra hours there to run some of the programs that they do. Yeah, so for example, we just don't have the funding to have a teacher at each site funded from this. So we do have those coordinator positions at each site that oversee that. And then we also do have, this covers one half the admin assistant, the other half that English Learner does. And then we have one implementation specialist that kind of oversees all of it. So we do have some funding. It just was kind of split 50-50 between professional services. There is some testing that takes place in this for our GATE students. And then that same amount of $37,500 for materials and supplies. Any questions regarding this fund?
Any questions?
And if I may add, as you notice with English Learner, the net deficit is 0, but that this fund is different from the English Learner in that we do anticipate a transfer from the general fund as budgeted in our final budget.
I know that each year we supplement this fund out of general fund. Are we having to transfer more money from general fund each year now versus, say, last year or year before?
Without looking right off the top of my head, I don't think this one increased quite a bit. I would have to review that and get back to you.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
All righty. Next fund is the At-Risk Fund, Fund 208. This is the middle size of the 3. GATE is the smallest. The English Learner is the largest, of course. This one, we receive $728,000 from the state, and I believe this was slightly less than what we received previously. And this is one that can fluctuate because, let's say, a larger district in the state identifies another 7% of their students as at-risk students, then that's that more students that the overall pot of at-risk funding from the state is divvied up amount. So our students might stay the same, but our funding might go down a little bit. Or conversely, it could go up.
And if I could add just a little bit to that. So this is when the new funding model came into existence, the Pupil-Centered Funding Plan, or PCFP, in 2021. This was determined by a district's free and reduced lunch rate. And so they looked at across the state free and reduced lunch rates, and if however many kids you had that qualified for free and reduced lunch, you got some funds. And then it was changed in 2023 to reflect something called the grad score, which is something buried inside of Infinite Campus that uses 74 different data fields and puts it into a magic box, and it spits out a number. And they basically rank order every single kid in the state by their at-riskness. And so this has caused a lot of angst amongst school districts, because it's one of the premises of going to this new funding model was to make it really transparent so that you could explain what is happening, why things are funded in a certain way. And the fact that it's using like machine learning algorithms to decide how at risk a child is, it's impossible to transparently explain that. So right now there are discussions going on with the state board and the Commission on School Funding about potentially making changes to that. But it is the most volatile of these three funds, at least the revenue side, the funding side of it is. And the point that Trustee Walker brought up before, there is a like a waterfall effect, but basically, as soon as you qualify for one, you don't qualify for the others. And so it actually starts with special education. If you qualify so if you're a special education student and you're an English learner and you're considered at risk, and let's say you're also potentially gifted and talented in some way. So you have 4 qualifications, but the district would only receive funding for special education. So we are still, for English learners, certainly obligated to provide services. For students at risk, we certainly are doing things to intervene for them. Gifted and talented, we have gifted and talented programs, but the only thing that would be funded are the special education services. So it puts districts in a tough spot when you have kids that qualify for multiple categories. But as Spencer mentioned as well, currently the total number of at-risk students is relative. It's relative to the number of students in the state that are considered at risk, but then it also, some of it gets eaten up by special ed. If a student qualifies for special ed, if they qualify for EL. And so it's made it really problematic for districts to budget on this number. So there is a lot of interest in trying to get it changed, how these kids are determined, so that it's not so much about being relative to the rest of the state, to try to bring some stability to the funding amounts. I think it was last year that Washoe lost like $8 million that they didn't find out until I think late May that they were going to lose $8 million. And you know, they had to eat that in their general fund budget because they already had all these people on contract for the next year. So it's been problematic. Ours hasn't been as volatile, but it definitely has moved a bit and decreased a bit for us.
And I think that AJ's been a little bit modest. So I mean, when the grad score conversation happened at the state level, not only are those things a company's secret of what those 74 things are, they could change arbitrarily. Like, we don't know. So what those 74 factors are, 2 of those could change at any time based on their data. And so there's this blanket effect that nobody really knows how this is being funded. And AJ was actually one of the superintendents who not only participated on the funding commission, but also stood up and help shine light on the issue at the state board meetings. And the two of us started on a work group, and then I'm no longer on the state board, so I'm not on that work group, but he is actually working with a small group of people to find a solution to recommend for a more equitable at-risk funding solution. And so I think that I just wanted to recognize that in this meeting, that he's stepping up and doing some work statewide to help impact funding, and it's going to benefit students. So I appreciate that, AJ.
I do have a question as well. So can you better describe at-risk? I get the EL, I get the gate, but can you,
Yeah.
well, could we do that for the public?
It-
Can you better describe, yeah, what is at-risk?
Yeah, there's a lot of different data points. So, I mean, it could be your attendance, it could be, the grades that you received in the past. There's a lot of different factors that kind of go into there.
I'm sorry, and to clarify too, just kind of the full idea is at risk of not graduating high school. And what's really interesting about that is they are looking down at kindergartners on some of this data and determining at the kindergarten level if the child is at risk of not graduating high school.
Digging deeper into the budget itself, if we're doing the behavioral plan, the MTSS, with all of what we're implementing, to kind of catch it, are we seeing that there might be a possibility of not needing, $5,647,000 coming out of the general fund if we're going to be, we're implementing all of these different programs and policies in hopes to catch these students, that way? Is there, the possibility of decreasing
Yeah,
that?
understand the question. I think there's some reality to some of those people are the ones helping implement those types of services, the MTSS services and that sort of thing. But I think at the same time, and similar, maybe to the gate question, I think looking at the model that we currently have in place, is there potentially room for making adjustments? I think it's a fair question, that it's something that we potentially could look at doing.
And I guess on that same point, when looking at, if we're going to have to get lean, these are the places we're going to start with. So how can we recalibrate these efforts without impacting funding, but then also spreading everything a little bit thinner to make sure that we're still meeting the needs of our kids as best we can? It's not optimal, but this is 11 certified and 2 classified positions. And so, I'd much rather cut from here than classroom teachers, if that makes sense.
I mean, that was the point, as well, as if we're, implementing those others, then there might be the possibility, because if you add up the two, it's $889,000 that these 3 programs are coming out of the general fund. That's close to $1 million. That could bring us from a 5.4 deficit spending to a 4.4. We're on our way, but what would be the implication? Yeah, on that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely things to consider, because if you pull away some essential services, that then an entire classroom is not performing as well because of that, then, so a lot of things to consider as we figure out where's the best place to try and save funding. As you can see from this fund, this one's 100% salaries and benefits. Certainly, you could probably say that there's general fund items that could qualify for this that we do, because as you say, there's a lot of programs that we do, because really you could say every student is at risk at not graduating. So we want every student to achieve that goal, and we're going to do everything we can to make that happen. It's just, there's this arbitrary line that's kind of drawn by the state in those 74 things, and the students that fall below that, who we don't even know who they are in our own district, we provide those services for. So that's another unique thing about this, is we provide the services for the students that we see the most need fit, and they might not necessarily be the ones that are funded for the state. But We certainly are grateful to Mr. Fueling and that committee for looking for good solutions to make things better for the future. So any questions about all of those funds?
I don't think
Just
so.
I want to stress that, anytime you have these conversations and things aren't looking as rosy, there's an implication for employees and some anxiety that's caused by that. And so I think that we're trying to be honest and realistic with the projections we have in front of us, but knowing that we're happy with the programs we have in this district and we would love to sustain them at the current levels or maybe even expand them. But if we have to make cuts, we're going to have to look at the extra things first before impacting the classrooms. And so I just want to be clear that, these are the things that people need to talk to their legislators about, is the way schools are funded, because if we're having to make decisions based on what we have and what we're projected to get, it's not looking pretty right now, and it's not looking pretty for any of our school districts.
And on that, I think as a side note as well is, with these workshops, we're getting, again, thank you, we're getting a better idea of the general fund. I mean, it's really being broken out. But what would also, be helpful too is, if we're going to say, yes, we only want to be at 3.4 deficit spending, where would it be? The idea of what is going to be the implications. So say that if you turn around and say, okay, well, 889,000 is coming out of the general fund, but we're going to propose it to be 400,000. We're going to take 489 and not take it from the general fund, but then to give us an idea, but here's going to be, this is what's going to happen. This is this is what it would look like. These are going to be the implications. And, when it comes to students or faculty, staff, classrooms, all of that, the whole picture, rather than, I guess, just kind of saying, yep, we did it. Here's $3.4 million deficit, just as you asked us to do, but to give us what the implications are going to be. Yeah, what it's going to look like.
I think that's the plan anyway, right?
Well, thank you, Spencer. I mean, that, like it was already mentioned, the purpose of asking for this type of information is so we can get a better idea of, where we are able to make cuts when we get to that point. So. Yes.
So AJ, with the work group, since I've kind of fallen off, what are we settling on to propose to the state board as an alternate to grad score? So, I mean, there had been talk about using direct certification numbers. There's a host of ideas.
Yeah, a lot of focus has been on direct certification, and NDE has done, with a very limited staff, has done a ton of work and data analysis trying to understand the implications of making some of these changes. And again, sorry, so direct certification is if we have a student whose family qualifies for some kind of federal assistance, so either Medicaid or TANF on welfare, something along those lines. And those kids are automatically getting qualified for free and reduced lunch. But the idea is that it generally is a pretty objective measure of poverty, and poverty is clearly something that is very impactful to our students' lives and their learning. The other thing, and sort of maybe in tandem with that, or maybe separately, is actually looking at student standardized test scores effectively, and looking at how students are performing. And I think the idea, again, if it's about at risk of not graduating, for students who are well below a level of proficiency, they probably are, there is some risk of not graduating. So something within those factors is likely how it comes out, but there's also complication of the distribution of funds and how volatile it would be. And I think everybody wants to get away from it being a volatile number. Like if it moves a little, that's fine. But if you're having, 20% increases and then 30% decreases and then 10% increases. It just, like, if we're, so much of what we're trying to do is provide a stable service for our community that we can depend on, that our leadership in our schools, that our teachers can also depend on. And when you have that kind of volatility, when you're trying to provide resources and then you have to take them away and then you can put them back in again, it becomes problematic for everyone.
Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, thank you so much, Spencer, for this report. We appreciate it.
You are very welcome.
And we are going to go for a 5-minute recess. Going to call our board meeting to order at 6:30 PM. Agenda item number 2, adoption of the agenda as submitted, and this is for possible action
So moved.
Second.
by trustee Walker and second by trustee Varner. Any board discussion? See none. Any public comment? See none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 3, flag salute. Trustee Walker, if you can please lead us. Thank you, Trustee Walker, and I love the voices of the students. Thank you for helping us. And before I continue, I need to inform the audience that Trustee Rebecca Roberts and Trustee Matt Clappin are absent, but we do have a quorum. And Michelle Peterson is here. Yes, joining us. Okay. Agenda item number 4, Superintendent's Report, and this is for information only. Superintendent Feeling.
Thank you, President Ramirez. First thing, tonight, we have some people here, if you weren't aware. And I just want to say for the record that I do not run. It's not something I do. However, not even when you see us. Not when I see you coming. However, we have some incredibly talented young people, and they can run. And so tonight we get a chance to appreciate some of the success in showing off that running and doing it on a beautiful day right over at Carson High School. And so we have the gentleman who kind of hatched the idea and made all this happen, Mr. John Hager. If you wouldn't mind coming up.
Good evening, school board members. Thank you very much for having us and letting us recognize these runners. My name is John Hager. For the record, I'm the assistant coach for the cross-country team. We have the head coach, Munyon, over there, and Coach Thielen over there as well. So we also brought the coaches of the kids who were our juniors and seniors. We brought a few of them. We didn't bring all of them. So I'd like them to stand up when I call up the runners. So first of all, Mila Camper is a 5th grader at Bordewick, and is it Wlashin's class? I'm sorry. Wlashin. So if she can come on up here, she was 3rd place in the race, and this was out of, we had 111 kids. So come on up, just stand up right there. She got 3rd place, and Maddie Mahe from Fritch and Miss Benson's 5th grade class, come on up. Just stand off to the side for a second. And then 1st place for the girls was Evie Bagley from Siegler, Miss Williams' 4th grade class. Come on up. So stand up here next to your teammates. And so we have Madison Hager, Sean Thornton, and Tegan Barrowman, who were some of the coaches. Also, next we're going to do the boys. So 3rd place was Quest Dunbar from Bordewick, Parker's class. And 2nd place was Yella Estrada from Empire, 5th grade, Calverley's class. And Brianna Nunez was his coach. And then Cameron Bartok from Bordewick, 5th grade, also from Lash's class. So if you guys could look at the school board members real quick. Go and turn around. So these are the people that run the entire school district. They make sure that all the principals are hired to hire your teachers to help you in class. Okay? And this is the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place runners in the elementary school race. Thank you.
Congratulations.
If we wanted to do a picture, can we have the coaches that coach them stand behind them? and take a
Yes.
picture?
And which, do you want you in the background, or do you want, which way? Okay, so coaches coming behind them. Kids, why don't you get closer? Come right here.
Yeah.
Come right here, close. Oh, before you do that, turn around so they can see your shirts. This has been a theme for our cross-country program for all of the kids. Sometimes you need a little motivation.
Nice.
All right, so turn around, and you guys come.
Oops.
There you go. So look over here. Right here. Look right here. There we go.
And then can we get one with you guys standing up here so we get the trustees in the background? So
It's for the parents too. And coaches on the sides. Go right here. Kids right here.
French.
You guys come closer. Come closer. Come closer. Close together. Like touch elbows. There you go. Oh, and Vinny's here as well.
Cheese.
ready? Three, two, one. Look over here, guys. 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3.
I will say that middle school coaches can't wait to have you on their teams next year.
Well, I would say congratulations. We had the pleasure, the superintendent, Phil, and I had the pleasure of being there. And it was just so exciting to see them so excited about getting to the finish line. And I especially love seeing the parents there at, during the day. It was like midday and parents were there. So thank you so much for, supporting your children's education. Any other comments? No? Yes?
Just congratulations and thank you, coaches, for getting it started. Extracurricular activities is always very, very important for education. And so getting you out early and doing this, I think, is great. And kudos for all of you who like to run.
I was looking at the front of your shirts where it says Future CHS Runners, and I love that. And I hope you guys keep that in mind and stick with it. I'm all for investing in anything that continues growth and keeps things going. And so a big high five to the ideas, but not just the ideas, but the doers, because ideas don't go anywhere without people willing to step up and make things happen. So a big high five to you guys for investing in the future and making sure that the sport stays alive and has people coming in excited. So high fives to everybody that showed up and ran. You guys are great. I'm with AJ. I'm not a runner. That was like the punishment for every sport I ever did. You guys made a whole sport out of it, and I think it's great. You guys are thriving and having a good time, so keep it up. Stay in it.
Thank you.
I,
Yeah, one more applause, of course, of course.
I just wanted to say thanks again. I think Mr. Hager and I probably, he floated the idea probably like a year and a half ago, the first time of something like this. And it's one thing to talk about it and another thing to make it happen. And just great coaches, great community people trying to do good things for our kids. So just very much appreciated.
John, if I may say one more thing, thank you for introducing us to the future leaders, and please, students, please consider being the future board members of this district. Our eyes are on you guys. Go ahead.
Should we just take a quick little break and
Sure,
so
okay.
everyone can
Excellent. Well,
get out
thank
of
you
here?
once again for coming. And we're going to take a short recess. We're going to continue with the Carson High School Student Board or were you not done? I'm so sorry. I apologize. My apologies.
Sorry. So last week, the AASA, which is the National Superintendent's Organization, in one of their cohorts called Redefining Ready, we hosted a summit at Carson High School in the library over a 3-day period. The premise of this group is basically that there is a whole lot more that we want for kids and that is good for preparing kids other than looking just at standardized test scores. And so came to Carson High, talked about a lot of the things going on, a lot about CTE, dual credit, work-based learning, showed off some tours of our health science classes, engineering classroom, NJROTC gave a presentation, had a student panel. We got to show off if you remember last year, we had the Entrepreneurs in Action magazine that FBLA and marketing classes put together. We had some of those kids come back to present on what they've done, and just a really good, well-rounded look at a lot of what is going on in Carson schools and a lot of the successes we were having. And they were this group of superintendents and educational staff from across the country, districts all over the country, were just very, very complimentary of what is going on here. So it was fantastic. Thank you to everyone involved, and especially, because I know she's probably watching at home, Candy Robles, you were amazing. So thank you so much for all of your help in putting that together. Yeah,
Yeah.
we will never do it again. Want to say thank you to Leticia Servin. She has been putting on some parent events for our Spanish-speaking families, and I attended one on Saturday. Very well attended, and just trying to help families in the complicated world of education and all the education-ease language that we have, trying to help our families understand what's going on at school and how to really be able to see what your child is doing, how well they're doing, how to keep track of events going on at school. And she just did a fabulous job with that. So thank you to Leticia. Over at Bordewick, our new vice principal over there, Chelsea Borowski, has just been a standout coming in and really helping out. Our principal, Cheryl Riquetta, had to miss a little time, and Chelsea, being new to this job here in Carson, just has really stepped up for her school and being a leader over there. So I just really, really appreciate that. And in tow with that, Shannon Slayman, who is a teacher over there that subbed in as an administrator for many days, and otherwise has been taking on a lot of help in the district for math curriculum support. So thank you to both of them. Over at Fremont Elementary School, Sarah Quisenberry, who's a teacher but plays a critical role in their MTSS program as coordinator there, and has just been a quiet leader in that building, making sure that kids are getting the support that they need. Over at Empire Elementary School, Kaylee Robinson, who runs the student leadership team over there, they have developed what they call Mustang Moments, which are media clips that they put together and post on the school's Instagram page, which has been hugely popular with parents, just highlighting events and what's going on at school so that parents know what's happening over there. Over at Fritch, music teacher Cassidy Paul ran a hoedown in the lunchroom. So she had students doing folk dancing, square dancing, line dancing, all sorts of dancing. I had a whole bunch of dancing, and kids just having a lot of fun. So kudos to her to make that to make it fun, make learning fun. And last, over at Carson High School, they had students from Carson Middle School, 8th graders, come over to learn more about what is offered at Carson High School. And Rebecca Hanslick, who's the Career Center specialist over there, was responsible for setting up that experience. And our 8th graders got to learn about CTE and arts and other electives that are available to them when they will be graduating from being Solons and into senators. So it's those kind of events I think are really important, so that kids are looking forward to what's to come, and they see those pathways ahead of them for what is possible. So just a lot of great things going on, and thanks to everyone for all your contributions.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Okay, now I can invite the student board representatives, Cooper and Maggie, to come forward and provide us with your report.
I'm going first this
What a
time.
gentleman, he says ladies first.
All right. Well, starting off, good morning, members of the board and those here and not. My name's Maggie, and I'll be sharing Silver Campus's announcements this evening. Starting with the Carson High School speech and debate team competed at Worcester High School in Reno on the 17th and 18th. Our team did fantastically this tournament, with Michaela Hayter in third place for senior dramatic interpretation, Caden Saw and Chelsea Impero in first place for senior duo interpretation, John Fenton in third place for senior informative speaking. In senior U.S. extemporaneous speaking, we have Kyle Allen in second and Thomas Lance in third. Kyle Allen also got third place in Congress. Zion King Brown in first place for senior big question, Lexi Rope in third place for senior linking and Douglas, Caden Saw and John Fenton in second place for policy speech and debate. And finally, I got first place in senior storytelling.
Yay! Congratulations.
Thank you. Silver Campus hosted a Silver Power Hour, also known as tutoring, on the 14th and 16th. Students went for help with their grades and assignments before the end of the quarter, and overall had a great turnout. On October 21st, the Silver Campus held their first family engagement night for anybody who was interested in learning about becoming an electrician. It was a very electrifying night. A representative from the Northern Nevada Electrical Training Center came and shared what expectations and possibilities there were for students thinking about the trade. On October 22nd, the JAG program at Silver Campus held their first ever initiation and installation ceremony. That was a blast. They enjoyed a welcoming first look into the program, as well as good food and a bright atmosphere. Silver Campus will be holding a Dia de los Muertos celebration in Silver Commons on Monday, on the 3rd of November, from 6 to 8 p.m. It will be a night to remember loved lost ones and celebrate life itself. There will be food and drinks provided and bright colors all around. This concludes the announcement for Silver Campus. Have a wonderful rest of your night. This is Maggie signing off.
Thank you, Maggie. Cooper?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Cooper Feeling, the Carson High School school board representative. Just a few things tonight, mainly some sports that have been going on. We have almost all sports are into their playoff seasons now. Yesterday, girls volleyball had a 3-0 win against Reed, so they'll be moving on to play Spanish Springs tomorrow night at Spanish Springs. Boys soccer had a playoff win against North Valleys on Saturday, and they are playing Sparks High School tonight. So hopefully we will get good results from that. Last Friday, varsity football, we had a home game against Reno, and we had an overtime win. So it's the second of the season. with our kicker Cesar Pacheco being named the Colowate High School Player of the Week for his game-tying and game-winning field goals. And that also secured a playoff game against Reno. So we'll see them again in a few weeks. And then on Thursday this week, Carson High Latino Club is hosting a Day of the Dead celebration event, which is from 5 to 7 p.m. At the high school. And then this Thursday is varsity football's senior night. So that game starts at 7, but I believe the senior night ceremonies start at about 6:30. And that's all I have.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, both of you. Have a great evening and a good week. Okay.
President Ramirez?
Yes.
I apologize. There was actually just one quick other note I was supposed to make to you. So in the back of the agenda, in the informational items, it lists that daylight savings time ends on November 9th. That is not correct. It is November
right?
2nd. So this coming weekend, daylight savings time ends. So just for any
right?
confusion, for anyone at home who uses that to lock in their calendar, you want to be careful of that date.
Thank you for that correction. So it's November 2nd, correct? Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Okay. We're good? Okay, moving on. Nevada Association of School Boards, NASB update, Mr. Gardner?
No report tonight.
No report tonight. Okay, very good. And announcements, board announcements, Michelle?
All right, so I'll start out with Carson High School. A lot of what was on my list already got touched on, so that's kind of nice. I do have a couple more to mention. Carson High as a whole, I don't totally understand the details of how this happened, but they got on the radar and nominated for all the Northern Nevada Ford dealerships get together. And AJ, you could probably fill in the cracks on this way more. But the short answer, we won. And so our teachers all got honored with a meeting where they got a $250 gift card for every teacher there, which when you do the math on that, they spend a lot of money to spoil our teachers. So thank you,
That's
local Ford dealers.
fabulous.
That was really cool. Yeah. And keeping with the idea of tossing money at our school, Darby Beckwith, our theater, she was the recipient of a $5,000 grant from, is it Dolan Auto Group up in Reno? So they're going to use that to help make sure their next musical, Hadestown, is amazing. They're going to take that one to competition too and hopefully come home with some hardware on that. Also, we had, what was it, about 150 of our seniors. So at UNR, if you have good enough grades and you're a strong performing student, you get pre-admitted to UNR, where they basically say, hey, if you apply, you're in because you're a great student. And so those kids that were pre-admitted had the opportunity to go tour UNR. So they took several buses, about 150 kids, and the counselors went up there last week and toured the campus to help each kid decide if that's where they want to grow roots. So that's a really cool opportunity for them. Let's see. Cooper touched a lot on athletics. One he didn't. Tennis just had their regionals as well. And want to mention Sujwal. I will butcher his last name, but I'm going to try. Yedanathunla and Aubrey McAllister both got the farthest for our Carson kids. We had several qualify, but they made it pretty deep into the tournament. So mention that. And then also, we've mentioned them before, but Artur Fernandez and Bernat Casanovas, they are two of our exchange students from Brazil and Spain. And Mr. Wood wanted to mention that they found a great community and friendship through the tennis team. So shout out to the tennis team for making some new kids feel welcome in a strange place. I think, last one, Basketball Hall of Fame inductions. That's kind of a cool thing over at Carson High. So if you were an alumni of Carson High who was incredible back in the day, periodically they bring you around and you get a chance to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So they had 8 alumni inducted Dick Stoddard Carson High Basketball Hall of Fame. So yeah, that's all I have for the high school. And then I have Mark Twain. Let me get back up there. All right, so for Mark Twain, we're so fortunate. The Rotary Lunch last week honored Amelia Henry as the Rotary Teacher of the Month, which is a great program. Super thankful for the Rotarians. And then we will be honoring our students with quarter awards ceremony. Each teacher recognizes students for academic achievement, growth, and outstanding citizenship. And we also gave away awards for students with perfect attendance last quarter. They are enjoying parent-teacher conferences right now, and it's a lot of fun having the building full of families. And then they also have received a bunch of new furniture, academic furniture, and bookshelves in the library. The new look has really elevated our library to a center for learning. It's a beautiful upgrade. We are thankful to Mark Johnson and his team, along with the Calario family. So if you're in the area, go take a peek into the Mark Twain Library. It's got some beautiful new upgrades. That's all I have.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michelle. Richard?
Yes, thank you. I have several tonight. Mr. Clapham also asked me to give his reports, so if that's okay.
Of course.
For Fritz, Principal Brown would like to thank the French teachers for preparing to have some great parent conferences. They are shooting for 100% attendance by their parents. I don't know what's wrong with this thing. Anyway, so they want to thank the parents that have already attended and look forward to seeing more the next 2 days. And that's my report for him. I don't have one for boardwork tonight, but I do have Carson Middle School. They're in the middle of their parent-teacher conferences, and their teachers look forward to the opportunity to meet with each of their family members this week. And athletics, their girls' basketball team, both 7th and 8th grade, brought home the first place trophies from the Tall Neva Championship, and our cross-country 8th grade girls team finished in 2nd place in the Tall Neva Championship, so congratulations to them. They are hosting their first fall family festival on Thursday, November 6th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at Carson Middle School. They're inviting their entire school community to celebrate the wonderful diversity of their families and community with cultural and musical performances, food samples, arts, crafts, and family activities. Then their 8th grade U.S. history classes are busy preparing their annual great stakeout on the front lawn of the middle school. They encourage the community to stroll through the signs to learn about U.S. military veterans, both past and present. And then finally, they're inviting the community to Carson Middle School for their Veterans Day performance on Friday, November 8th at 9 a.m. I'd just like to mention I've attended most of those ceremonies since I've been on the board and a little bit before, and they always do a great job honoring the veterans. I've been fortunate to have my name up there on 2 different occasions now. So they do a wonderful job, and they always do a wonderful celebration for veterans. So if you can attend that, I would think you should.
Thank you.
Then I have an update for Eagle Valley Middle
Okay.
School. Principal Hoppy says they will be hosting a Halloween dance this Friday during the school day. Students will be allowed to dress up in costumes. Then a Parent Square message was sent out to families to recognize the Eagle Valley Middle School staff with positive recognitions. And the details that were sent to the families are as follows. The positive feedback can highlight anyone, front office staff member, custodian, kitchen staff, teacher, counselor, social worker, anyone. Your feedback helps recognize the great things happen at Eagle Valley every day and reminds our team how much their efforts matter. It goes on to state they know your time is valuable, and we truly appreciate you taking a moment to share your feedback. As a small token of our gratitude, everyone who participated will be entered into a drawing. Before Thanksgiving, we'll be raffling off a grocery store gift card of your choice, along with 2 restaurant gift cards for 3 lucky winners. Then they will also be hosting their first VIP lunch for families on Friday, November 14th. To join their students during regular lunch times, more information will be posted on later this week, and they look forward to having families in the building. They are excited to announce that Miss Amy Riddle science and STEM teacher at Eagle Valley Middle School, is a winner of a $5,000 grant from the Rotary Club. The grant will fund a student-led citizen science initiative that will establish a permanent water quality monitoring station on the Carson River, which is adjacent to the Eagle Valley Middle School. Project FLOW, which stands for Future Leaders Observing Water. The Water Quality Monitoring Station initiative is designed to connect students with authentic science experiences that extend learning beyond the classroom. Additionally, with the Rotary funding, students would be able to build civic responsibility for their local watershed with the specialized tools and technology required for consistent long-term monitoring. And congratulations, Amy. And I'm out of breath.
That was a lot of reading. Thank you, Richard. Molly?
Yes, from Empire Elementary School, from Miss Virgil. She just wanted to mention that their fall festival this last weekend was a huge success. On that note, I would also like to thank Rotarians for donating. I was asked to get some donations for parents, for raffle prizes and small pumpkins. You always go to the people you know, which is the Rotary Club. So I thank them for their donations as well for helping with that. They had a great turnout and the students had a lot of fun. Their next event is the Turkey Bingo on November 20th at 5:30, which is on a Thursday night. And it's 5:30 to 7, and they are getting lots of donations from families to win, including turkey dinners for Thanksgiving. That's it.
Wonderful, thank you. Mike?
So Sealy Elementary School is also in the middle of their parent-teacher conferences, and they are enjoying that opportunity to partner with families. They had their first quarter Magnificent Matey earners, and they had an all-time high number of students who earned that. 133 students in grades kindergarten through fifth grade earned either a Night Monsters hockey field trip on November 20th, but that's only for first grade through fifth grade, or 100 extra positive pirates. During this, the students could only have one absence and no behavior referrals. So they are killing it over there. Also, the PTO fundraiser ends on Thursday, so Sealiger is hoping to get new playground equipment. So if you're able to contribute, please do so. And finally, all students in kindergarten through fifth grade have received tennis lessons from Nate Gross, who is a tennis pro, and they are enjoying partnering with the community. And I just want to give a shout out to Mrs. Pryor, because I may or may not embellish on her reports sometimes. And I think she put a few tongue twisters in here tonight to try to trip me up. So thank you, Mrs. Pryor.
Okay, so Rebecca Roberts is not here today, but she asked me to share her report from Fremont. They will be hosting an absolutely fun night of math and games on November 4th at 5:30 p.m. And then also I want to remind everyone that our next board meeting will be on November 17th, and it is a Monday. So just a reminder that we will only have one meeting during the month of November, and it will be on November 17th at 6:30 p.m. Okay, very good. Yeah, just a friendly reminder. Okay, and then I also attended the conference that Superintendent Feeling and his staff put together. I had the pleasure of meeting or, greeting the group. And I just have to commend you, Superintendent, because that was an amazing event that you put together. And, you highlighted our district in, 15 states? Is that what we had? So it's incredible. In fact, one of them was Iowa, and I know that we have some family who lives in Iowa, and they speak very highly of their education. So I hope that Superintendent took some, good tips from us as well. So, and you got some tips from him as well. So it's all a win-win. It's helping us all. And yes, I couldn't agree with you more. The superintendent feeling Candy Robles is just an incredible administrator who is so passionate about her programs, and she definitely, highlighted all the wonderful programs that we have and opportunities that we have for the students in our district. So big kudos to her. And also Leticia Servin, as you mentioned, Superintendent Fueling. I mean, she has done an incredible work in getting parents to attend. We always hear our administrators struggling in getting parents to attend the family events. I don't know what she is doing. Actually, I know what she's doing. She's actually making phone calls and texting them, and the parents are responding. So I attended two of her events that she's had, and she has had over 50 parents with their students in there, listening to her presentations about the importance of being in school and what it takes to stay on track and graduate. And she invited me to attend those presentations, and I was very pleased, to meet the parents. And I just strongly, I strongly recommend it for them to, stay connected with their children and with us too. We want them to be part of our team, and I reminded them how important their role is. And so it was just very nice to see the parents are responding. And I believe she's got one more tonight as we speak, so we couldn't make it to that one, but there is another one coming up next week on the 4th. And she's going to focus on Carson Middle School and Eagle Valley Middle School. And she has about 70 students who have, 70 parents who have RSVP'd. So it's an incredible turnout that she is able to get to come to the school. So it's a wonderful work that she's doing. And then Dr. Molden and her staff did an amazing job, as Maggie mentioned earlier, on the JAG initiation. They had about 40 kids, 40 students, and I was so impressed to see them so excited, nervous, but excited of being part of the program and having their parents there. In fact, I heard a student who said to the other student, "I can't wait till you meet my mother." It was just really exciting, to see them being inducted into this program and being so proud and having their parents there. It was just such a wonderful, wonderful experience to see that our students are excited about what the district is offering them. And again, it's all about offering them opportunities for them to get excited about their education and learn about the different opportunities that they have after high school. Same thing with the electrician presenter. I thought it was very impactful. And again, it was a family night event, so it was a parent and a student. And they were very attentive. The students were very attentive to what the presenter was emphasizing about their program and about the opportunities of becoming, very successful in the electrician industry. And one of the comments from one of our administrators was that she heard that the next millionaire is going to be the electrician. So that was, if anything, I think that students heard that piece for sure. So again, super excited about what our district is offering to our students. And again, kudos to Dr. Molden and her staff for, putting these events together and just making it an exciting campus at the Silver campus. So I believe that concludes my report. Yes.
Are we still having the board workshop on November 15th from 9 to noon?
Yes, but we are working on the logistics. So I will have Renee email you those logistics. Yes, it is still happening. Yes. The 15th. Again, we'll follow up with an email if that's okay with you. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Very good. All right. We are moving on. Agenda item number 6, association reports, and this is for discussion only. No one from the association, okay. Agenda item number 7, public comment. And I was told we don't have any public comment online. Do we have in-person public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment. And agenda item number 8, presentation of the 2024-2025 Nevada School Performance Framework, NSPF, ratings for the Carson City School District, and this is for discussion only. Welcome, Dr. Ricky Medina and Mr. Brandon Brinkhurst.
Good evening, President Ramirez and board members. It is great to be with you this evening. Dr. Medina and I are excited to share information regarding the 24-25 school ratings that we recently received. So the NSPF, or the Nevada School Performance Framework, provides a variety of reports for us, and these can be very beneficial to us. They're beneficial in helping us to evaluate how we are doing in areas that are meaningful and matter to us as Carson City School District. So in our Carson City School District strategic plan, we have a mission that states that in partnership with families and the community, we will make the most of every day for each student by empowering them with the skills, knowledge, values, and opportunities to thrive. So what we've done in this presentation is break out some of the information from the Nevada School Performance Framework and what it tells us about how we are progressing in these areas as we strive every day to help each student gain these specific benefits that Carson City School District has identified as meaningful. We want students to gain skills, knowledge, values, and opportunities. The Nevada School Performance Framework, or NSPF, gives us a variety of information. Specifically, we get a lot of information on proficiency rates around standardized test scores. We also get information on attendance rates, graduation rates, participation in some different programs, and all of these results are broken down by various student categories. So this NSPF is a very valuable and important tool to us when we keep it in the context of what we as Carson City School District value, the values that we have identified, and we find some measures in here that really help us see the progress we are making in those areas, and that's what we'll focus on this evening. So one of those is providing students with skills and knowledge. Particularly when we look at the NSPF, we can see with math and ELA in particular, those are tested in multiple grade levels. And we note that our students are improving in their math skills and knowledge, and pretty significantly so. On the ELA side of things, our students, the results there are a little bit more mixed. So to go into that in a little bit more detail, the knowledge and skills with math in particular, as I said, the results show that we're making some tremendous strides in this area. You'll note that at the elementary level, 4 out of our 6 schools saw growth in their math proficiency of anywhere between 6 and 10 percentage points, which is really a tremendous amount of growth. As for all of the elementary schools combined, the median growth percentile for those schools increased from 44 to a median growth percentile of 55, which is great. We always want to strive for being above that 50th percentile and that median growth percentile, showing that those elementary school students have a median growth percentile growing at a greater rate than students around the state. The middle school level, we also saw significant gains in our math knowledge and skills. Both schools showed gains in math proficiency, and that's the first time since 21 to 22 that both schools showed gains in the same year with their math proficiency. And again, that median growth percentile increased there as well. At the high school level, that proficiency is measured by how the students do on the ACT test, and you can see that proficiency went up as well. So across the board with math, we're seeing some great growth and improvement. Some key takeaways for us in that math proficiency. Yep.
So 18% average of math and ELA together for the high school level?
Math, that is just math.
Just math, okay.
Thank you. Some key takeaways for us when we look at the math, where we're at and where we need to go. As we noted, there was significant improvement, especially at the elementary level. And last year was our first year with a new elementary curriculum, the Math and U math curriculum. So, for the first year implementation to see those kinds of results is very encouraging. Often we don't see that necessarily in the first year because there's such a learning curve for our staff in implementing that. So to already see those results is great. And as we visit with our elementary teachers and principals, they are even more comfortable with that curriculum this year and very excited about the work and the growth that they're seeing from their students. We also see that across the board, we have been focusing and working on our proficiency scales and PLC process across the board, and that's really bearing fruit for our students. This school year is also year one of implementation of a new math curriculum at the middle school level, iReady. And so we are excited about that and what that will provide for our students. Like any new curriculum, it is definitely a steep learning curve, but we're very excited about how it aligns resources for our students, and it really pushes our teachers towards a much more student-centered instructional approach that we believe will certainly pay off in the long run. We had a representative from iReady here last week doing some observations and training with us, and we're really pleased with where that is and excited about where we will go with iReady and math. Moving over to ELA, as I mentioned, our results in ELA are more mixed. The elementary school level, we only saw 2 of our 6 elementary schools that showed growth in their proficiency rates. And that median growth percentile was down by 1 point, so not a significant change there in the median growth percentile at the elementary level. Middle schools, proficiency rate at Carson Middle was essentially flat. For Eagle Valley, we did see pretty significant increase in our ELA proficiency scores. However, middle schools as a whole, we see that drop in the median growth percentile from 48 down to 41, which is concerning there that our students aren't making growth. That's an important measure to us because it shows not just which students are proficient, but no matter where they're at, proficient or not proficient, how much are they growing? So as I mentioned, we want to see that at 50 or higher. At the high school level, we saw a slight increase in proficiency on ELA. So some takeaways, and I know we have come to the board recently with a presentation about reading in particular. And as these results from last year would reinforce what we shared in that presentation, that we really needed to refocus our reading instruction more aligned with the science of reading. So we are implementing a new curriculum this year, CKLA curriculum, and along with that, we're doing a variety of professional development around the science of reading. Dr. Medina and I were in one of our elementary schools today and saw some of that CKLA implementation, and really quite impressive the work we're seeing from our students, even at some pretty young levels. Saw some analysis of poetry today in 3rd grade. It was pretty great. At the secondary level, we are renewing that focus on professional learning community process, or the PLC process, and incorporating the proficiency scales. We've noted some misalignment that has occurred, and so we are working to realign what we are teaching and how we are teaching that to make sure that our students get the growth that we need to see. The other piece that we want to highlight is values. That's something that our mission statement says we want our students to gain from their experience with the Carson City School District. That's a little bit tricky to measure values that students are obtaining, but I think one way that we can do that is through the attendance rates and showing the persistence and responsibility skills and values that our students are developing. When we look at our results from last year, we see significant gains there at the elementary level with students demonstrating greater persistence and responsibility. We're not seeing that same growth yet in the secondary level in these values that we work towards developing with our students. So breaking that down, specifically what we're seeing with the chronic absenteeism as our indicator, 4 out of our 6 elementary schools saw a decrease in their rates of chronic absenteeism. And that marks 2 consecutive years of improvement. So you can see that there, the rates over the last 3 years going from 21.4 to 19.2 and down to 17.6 in our rates of chronic absenteeism. So definitely moving in the right direction, and doing that in consecutive years is a very strong indicator for us that our students are improving and developing these skills. At the secondary level, Eagle Valley Middle School did show improvement in their chronic absenteeism. However, that was not the case at the other schools, and it really has been a persistent problem for us post-COVID. You can see the middle school rates there in 22-23 at 26.9, and in 25-20, I should say 24-25, I apologize there, 28.6. So not going in the right direction. And you see similarly there with the high school, those rates of chronic absenteeism continue to be a challenge for us. So what are we doing in order to help our students develop this persistence and responsibility, the values that we try, that we hope that our students gain, benefit from their time with the Carson City School District? We are continuing to strengthen the community partnerships. That has been a big push, working with the mayor, working with other community groups to help our students develop these values that are so important, and we'll continue to work in that direction. Along with that, we are working on our MTSS processes and the SARB process, which is specific to attendance. And we are seeing, as those processes and systems strengthen, we are seeing improvement. Again, Dr. Medina and I at elementary school we visited today, we talked, their chronic absenteeism so far this year is showing really tremendous improvements. And they've got a lot of that tied to the, because of the MTSS processes they have in place.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd add about that chronic absenteeism piece is remember that it's a 10% threshold. And so it's the number actually going down is kind of like the last thing that happens. We have kids that during the pandemic were missing like 30, 40% of the school year. And so some of those kids, they're not down below that 10%. They didn't get below the 10% last year, but the percentage of days that they missed was reduced. And so that getting those days back is huge.
Absolutely. So as Dr. Medina said, a student might go from 40% absent one year to 20% absent the next year, which is great improvement, but they would still count as chronically absent for us. It takes sometimes multiple years to get them down where they need to be in developing these values. Something new that we are working on at the secondary level that we believe will help in this area is the implementation of an employability skills grade across all of our middle school classes, as well as our high school CTE classes. This is one of the things that was highlighted at the Redefining Ready, with the Redefining Ready cohort that Superintendent Fueling spoke about. So in the past, what students received was their academic grade and a citizenship grade for each of their classes. That citizenship grade is kind of vague. Exactly what does that mean? How do you get your grade in citizenship? The middle schools have changed that to an employability skills grade, and within those employability skills have broken it down into very specific skills that we want students to develop. Obviously, attendance, being at work and being at work on time are key skills for employability. We feel that as students are taught those skills more explicitly and related to employment, and they get a grade on that, they self-assess themselves on that, and obviously those grades are reported to parents. We think that's going to help the students develop these values that are so important to us. Yep.
I don't know. I've been questioning this because, I mean, it's the new thing. So I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So is this like a separate grade on the report card? Is this a progress report that's sent home? Is there some uniform criteria that we're using for all classes for employability? Because, you know, for some people it could be you sat in your seat. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Those are great questions. So yes, it is a grade that goes home on the report card. To answer that first question, just like I said, what it used to be is you got your academic grade and a citizenship grade, or some districts use behavior grade or citizenship grade. So this replaces that citizenship grade. As far as the criteria for it, both middle schools have used employability skills from a nationally recognized firm that this is what they focus in, are employability skills, and they're aligned to the CTE standards. So they took those CTE standards and employability skills, and then they aligned those to each middle school has their matrix. They each have an acronym, and the kids are working on developing these different things, right? So they broke those skills down and said, so what does this look like in a school setting to develop these employability skills? So they've got a rubric that it is tied to. They teach the students about it during their advisory class. The students do some reflection and self-assessment on it. It is by no means perfect, as this is our year one of implementation, but I think it's a strong step in the right direction.
And hold on, tied to that, it also gives students the opportunity to be a little bit more future focused. So you're not just being good for the sake of being good. Like if I'm talking with a student about being tardy or their attendance, I could relate that to in the future when you go off into a career, you go off to college, this is the reason why we got to kind of get this under control now for your future.
Well, and I could see the importance of like teamwork, problem solving also. But just to clarify, so all middle school classes, every subject have an employability grade, and in high school, just the CTE classes.
Currently, that's where it's at, is working on the high school in the CTE classes. As this continues to develop, we'll see where we can take and expand from there. Anticipating obviously that things go well, then we'll look at doing it in other areas as well.
If I could.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that all teachers have been trained in this, so they're grading consistently across the board.
There was training at the middle schools. Candy Robles is working on a lot of the training there at the high schools with the CTE teachers as well. And so at the middle schools, before the school year started, they went through these rubrics that they have developed and are working with the teachers on. Again, I would point out that it's year one of implementation, and so there's a lot that our teachers are still learning here along the way. But like I said, I believe it is a good step in the right direction, and there has been some training to help the teachers have a higher level of consistency, which is different than with the citizenship grades in the past. It was very loose as to how those were graded, and different teachers used a variety of different types of criteria for that.
It'll be interesting to see the feedback from the parents when these grades go out. I guess they haven't gone out yet, right?
Yeah, they'll be out shortly, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe in the future, you could give us some feedback on
Okay.
how it was accepted.
Forgive me if I missed this part. Are these employability skills offered to students on their 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, all three?
Yes, all 3 grade levels.
Oh, that sounds okay.
Along with the same area, it's important, just increasing opportunities for students to have meaningful connections. We saw some of that today, right, with these cross-country or these runners that were here. These opportunities for meaningful connections make a big difference for the students as well. And students are also provided with direct instruction around these employability skills and SEL skills. We don't just assume that they know what these things mean and how to do them. There is some direct instruction that's provided there as well. The next,
I guess I have one more before I
Yes.
move on, I'm sorry. Has any information gone out to the parents about the change in this grading from behavior to this employability? I like the concept because I think anything we can do to help the child develop to be life-ready versus just career or college-ready, they need to be life-ready. So if this helps, I'm on forward, but I'm wondering if anything has gone out to the parents.
Yeah, that's a great question, Trustee Varner. I know that there has been some information that has gone out. I'm not as familiar with all of the information that's gone out to the parents on that from each of the middle schools. But I know that there has been some communication there, and I'll follow up more with them and see what's been communicated, and also some of the feedback that they've received from parents And we definitely agree that Life Ready is important. I think it's great that in our mission statement, we include in that we want students to, one of the benefits we want them to get from being in Carson City School District is that they develop some of these values that are so important to being life ready. And it's not just about learning how to read and write and do math. That is very important. But to be life ready, you need some other skills as well. The other piece that's highlighted in our mission statement there is that students will be provided with opportunities, empowered with these opportunities. And there's some of that we can get some indication of as we look at the NSPF, particularly at the high school level. There are ratings around the college and career readiness, and that's an indicator on the high school NSPF. And what that is looking at is the participation and completion rates of students who are participating in AP, dual credit, dual enrollment, or CTE programs. It also looks at the number and percentage of students that are earning advanced or college and career-ready diplomas. Another indicator that we have in there is graduation rates. And from both of those, we could see the Carson School District is really offering some very robust opportunities for students to enhance their K-12 experience.
Yeah, and I have to kind of jump in for this one because I get a little bit passionate about it. So my kids go to school in a different school district, and I have one kid that wanted to do like the AP route. So there was a specific school she had to go to for the GATE program to do like all the AP classes. My other daughter wanted to do nursing, so she had to go to a different school. My nephew that I take to school in the morning, next year he'll go off to high school and he wants to be an engineer, so he has to go to a different school. In Carson High School offers everything. There's every CT track, there's every AP track. We have a huge dual program, dual credit program. The opportunities there for college and career readiness. I'll argue, fight with anybody that says that there's any school in the state of Nevada that has more.
And we see that echoed here in the results that we get on this NSPF. So in that college and career ready indicator, schools can earn a maximum of 25 points, and Carson High School earned 22.5 of those 25 points. So you can see nearly maxing out that measure from the state. Breaking that down a little bit, you see the advanced or college and career ready diplomas. We saw those increase and increase pretty substantially, which is great. Participation in these different tracks, AP, dual enrollment, and CTE, we did see that participation drop a bit last year. However, we saw the completion rate increase. So the number or percentage of students who are completing AP, dual credit, dual enrollment, or CTE increased. So some great results there with the opportunities that are available. As Dr. Medina said, we have great opportunities available. And then this is also telling us that they're not just there and available, but we have a lot of students who are completing these opportunities. On the graduation rates indicator, Carson High School earned 29 of 30 possible points. Again, nearly maxing out that indicator. A note there that graduation rates is because of the timeline of how those are calculated, that actually lags by a year in the reporting cycle. But our four-year graduation rate, a slight decrease there, 0.4%, and just continuing to knock on the door of that 90% graduation rate, which is really exemplary. So next steps as we continue to try and provide these robust opportunities for students to empower them to move into their futures. We are working towards opportunities for more of our students at the secondary level to get into those first choice electives. We want to increase the participation in that college career readiness courses. We saw, as I noted, a decrease in that by a bit this last time. We are also working really hard on the work-based learning opportunities, which are so impactful for our students. And then just the athletics, clubs, co-curricular and extracurricular activities. And a great example of that here today when we see all the way down to the elementary school level with students participating, and those not just elementary students participating, but their high school students helping to coach. Just a tremendous example of the kind of opportunities that are available here in the Carson City School District. Now, the last piece that we want to talk about a little bit, we also note in our mission that we want to provide these opportunities every day for each student that is enrolled with us in Carson City School District. And the NSPF gives us a great opportunity to break down those results into a variety of student categories. One thing that we note with that is that at our middle school level, we have a couple of groups that aren't receiving the full benefits to the extent we would like to see. That would be specifically our students with disabilities and our students who are English learners. We need some additional focus there. The state has a process whereby they identify schools with specific designations. Our middle schools have those, and Dr. Medina is going to talk to us a little bit more about how those work.
So about 15 years ago, when we used to have No Child Left Behind, there were 18 measures that kind of determined whether or not you were making adequate yearly progress. When we fast forward to today, with all those small numbers on the screen, you could ignore the numbers. Going vertically on that left-hand column, those are the measures that a middle school has to meet. So some of those are proficiency, some of those are growth, you have attendance, you have credit requirements. Going across the top, those are all of the different subpopulations that we have to look at data for. So altogether, there's 140 different numbers that you have to keep track of to make sure that all of those are above where they need to be. And if you think about that, that's kind of like I went to the doctor a few weeks back and I got my blood work done. And when you get your blood work, there's like a 20-page thing of like every medical test that they could possibly run on your blood. I tried to look some of them up on Google, and Google didn't even know what they were. And that's kind of similar to kind of what happens with schools. There's 140 different things. There's no way that you're going to be able to keep your pulse on every single one of them. So this past year, we had 2 schools that ended up with designations from the state. So Eagle Valley ended up in what's called targeted supported improvement. So if you look back at this chart, for their ELL students and their students with disabilities, for those 2 particular subgroups, they had some of these categories that didn't do well. And so that's an area, as Brandon said, we're going to have to focus on that for this year. For Carson Middle, they were designated as additional targeted school improvement, which is similar, except instead of just the overall individual things, one of their overall scores for the Hispanic subpop was an area of concern. But really, when you dig in and look at their data, it's the same, it's ELL and students with IEPs. Carson High School, in the past, they were a targeted school improvement school. This past year, they came off of the list, which was a huge accomplishment. That means that what they were on the list, what put them on the list before, they were able to make some adjustments and some corrections. They are no longer on that targeted supported improvement list. So the goal is to do that same thing with Eagle Valley and Carson Middle this year.
And I think the challenge is, I think, number one, we've talked about this. It's so complex that for a school principal, it would seem like a principal just gets a report and knows exactly where they're going to fall and what to look for. And in Carson City, they're fortunate to have somebody like you to sit down and really dig in, because that's not something that happens in a lot of districts. But I think that another thing that I still am trying to figure out, because Brandon and I were just in a meeting last week, maybe it was this week, talking about exiting schools on TSI status. And the district sets the criteria, so we could exit a school and then first thing in fall, they could put them right back on. Because it's a shifting criteria, or it's kind of a gray area. And so I don't know, how do we support our principals with that? Because they're going to do all this work and then we don't really know, is that going to help them truly exit this status or not?
And I would say that the big thing there, and there's two parts to that. Like one, when you look at some of these numbers, like some of these numbers, I know like what a school has to do this year. I know like how many kids they have to kind of get over the hump in order to meet that criteria. There's some that won't even be calculated again until next year. So those ones, we don't even really know what the target is. I could just tell them, you have to try really hard and get the kids really far along. And so there's that piece. I would say the big thing is we have to identify things that are, I look at it like, I'll use another medical example. Like when you go to the doctor, you get their professional opinion of what's wrong with you. They give you some medicine and you take it and you take the full amount and see if you get better. And if you don't, you know that medicine didn't work, you know you need to try something new. So I would say one of the most important things for our administrators is to help them identify what those things are that they think are going to be most beneficial for their school. Because they're the ones that are the boots on the ground. They know their kids, they know their teachers. And once we identify what those things are, give them the time to let them kind of work them out and make sure that they're using them with full fidelity and they're doing the best that they can with them, and not just switch every year. Because like this year we might focus on ELL and special ed, and we might make major improvements, and we might end up with one random box for, say, Native American students for attendance. And we don't want to drop what we're doing and then move on to something new. So I would say it's helping them to pick what they need to do and then giving them the time and the support to do it.
The only thing that I would add to that, I think Dr. Medina did a great job explaining that when we break it down like this and we're able to identify, here's a couple of groups of students that aren't getting all the success that we want them to get, it gives our administrators an opportunity to go and look with a little bit different eye and be specifically looking, okay, for these groups of students, what can we identify that might be some areas where we need to shore some things up? I agree 100% that we don't shift that around willy-nilly year to year, but we look a little bit closer at each of these particular groups of students to make sure that, well, we know that some things aren't working with those groups of students. So it gives us an opportunity to look at those groups of students with a little bit more critical eye and see where we can make some adjustments to provide higher levels of support to it so they can access those benefits.
Yeah, and some of those things that kind of the middle schools are already doing, that they started a little bit last year and now they're fully invested, is the focus on the multi-tiered systems of support. And they're doing that for academics, they're doing that for behavior, they're doing that for attendance, they're doing MTSS across the board. So they're working through the tiers. We're trying to build up our tier 1 instruction so that way it's meeting the needs of most of our kids, and then coming up with interventions for those tier 2 and tier 3 students. They also are utilizing AVID strategies that focus on sound instructional practices, different ways of taking notes, using notes, different ways of helping the students to kind of advocate for themselves in their own learning. And they're also doing AVID Excel courses, which is a curriculum that's geared towards ELL learners. And that's new this year.
Just to hit some overall takeaways from what we see in the NSPF result, really, we're making some good progress in the outcomes that Carson City values. I think it's important to look at these state reports, but most importantly, to look at them through the lens of what does it tell us about the things that are meaningful to us as a school district. And they give us some great indications about some adjustments that we need to make, and we've talked about some of those today. So big highlights, 9 of the 9 schools in Carson City School District, they earned a total of 25 stars last year, which is up by 5 stars from 20 just the year before. So an increase overall from those 9 schools, an increase of 5 stars is very significant. The largest gain in stars was at Fremont Elementary School, going all the way from a 1-star school to a 3-star school. Not easy to do, and shows some very significant gains. 7 of our 9 schools, even though they may not have increased in stars, they didn't get enough points to jump a full star, but 7 of those 9 schools saw an increase in the total number of points that they earned in the NSPF rating, which is also tremendous. Big asterisks here around Carson High School. Carson High School was penalized 4 points for participation on the ACT exam. So the state requires that 95% of students in each group of students that Dr. Medina shared with us take the test. It doesn't matter how well they do on the test, they simply have to take it. And if you don't hit that 95% threshold, then you get penalized for that. So that resulted in a 4-point penalty for Carson High. Really, that would have just been those students literally sitting down, clicking submit on their test. It wouldn't have mattered how well they did on the test at all, just taking it, and they wouldn't have lost those 4 points. And those 4 points made the difference between them being a 3-star school and a 4-star school.
Yeah, and it takes some explaining, that 4 points. Like, first off, like, I'm the biggest advocate for every kid testing. Like, I come from like a strong supporter of civil rights. Like, we test every single kid. However, the reason why that's important is because districts were taking advantage of the system back in the days. Like, you would schedule your special ed students, your ELL students would all of a sudden have like a field trip the day of testing. So those kids didn't count against you. Today I was on a technical advisory group with my colleagues from across the state. And we were looking at this because this is something that has affected a lot of schools statewide. And Nevada has, I want to say we're in like the top 3 across the country for like the penalty for students not meeting that 95% participation. And what we proposed to the state is we said, okay, if students don't participate, just let us count them as having the lowest possible score on the test. Because it's not that schools are like not trying to test kids. Like, on the day of testing, we're doing everything we possibly can to get kids in to take the ACT. We're sending out the truancy officers, principals. I might get a phone call to like go and bang on some kid's door and get them to school. But what the problem is like, it's usually like we have kids that they've withdrawn from school, but they haven't told anybody. So they leave like 5 days before testing even takes place. Testing is only 1 day for the ACT. We can't remove them even though we know that are most likely not coming back. We have to wait 20 days. We have to keep them on the books. And so they count against us. And when it's 95%, when you have 25 kids in a sub-pop, that means only 1 kid cannot test. So if you have 2 kids that are brother and sister, and mom says, I'm not going to let you test either of those kids, I'm going to keep them home, or heaven forbid something happens, like one of those kids ends up in the hospital and they can't test, those are the kids that count. And so for this particular one with the ACT, it was 3 kids. It was a kid that was Hispanic and they had an IEP, so they counted for both tests. And they also counted for English and math because you miss the full day of ACT day, and there's 2 tests that are given. So that's where the 4 points came from.
Is there a reason then why this isn't, if it's so important to the schools, why isn't this connected to graduation? I would think then they would really
Yeah,
get
the AC
100% testing.
the ACT is actually the only test that's linked to graduation. Kids don't have to pass it, but they have to participate.
So those 3 kids then are not going to graduate?
Yeah, so we either retest them as a senior, or they could test like on the weekend.
So,
Two
yeah,
of the kids we'll probably never see again. Like they are most likely in other districts. One of the kids was new in country like the day before the test, so it wouldn't have been. We could have made him sit in front of the test, but he didn't speak a lick of English.
But if all he has to do is commit or submit the test, then it might be worth having him
oh,
take
absolutely.
it then to retake it. But even if
But
they
I would
miss the
push back
day-
on that
Hold on.
because
Wait, even if they go to, so say that if they don't take it the day that everybody's supposed to take it and they're going to take it that next weekend, that still counts against us even though they took it within that school year?
Yeah, there's what's called the census day, which last year was February 28th. So that was like the official day that you had to take it. If you missed that day, there was a makeup day a month later. The problem is a lot of kids that don't do it on the 28th, they're no longer enrolled with us for that makeup day. So for the ACT, if you don't test that first day, chances are you're going to count against us. Whereas like for SBAC or some of the other tests that are online, we could bring them in like the very next day and have them test. But for ACT, we have to wait a month.
So one last question then. So you're telling me 3 students were responsible for the high school from going from a 4-star to a 3-star?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
3, seriously?
Yeah.
Out of
Oh, that is utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's why like across the state, we were having that conversation. Because in some districts,
Do our,
if you have a kid if you had, say, 2 kids that were Hispanic, FRL, and had IEPs, you could lose the maximum of
Right.
6 points just because of those 2 kids.
I just find well, and I've said this before, that it's flawed. And I think our legislators need to realize how flawed, the star ratings is and how schools are rated. Because that is, how many are in our high school?
22?
2,300 and 3 students
Yeah.
affected us from going from being a 4-star school to a 3-star school.
Yeah, I mean, we all note a variety of flaws with the NSPF system, which is why we've really tried to kind of gear the presentation around what are some of the things that we do find valid and we find that align with the values that Carson City School District has, and what can we take from those indicators to help us make some decisions about the instruction that we're providing to students. But the headline that always hits home is the number of stars, right? Like we can break this all down. People just want to know, well, it's only a 3-star school. Why not a 4-star school? We get that, and there are definitely some large flaws in it where, yes, as small as 1 student can make a difference between a school being losing a star, which I fundamentally disagree with. But it's the system that we have, and I appreciate that Ricky is advocating for some changes to it that I think would still hold schools accountable for. We want to test every student and not try to game the system, but a more realistic way of doing it that's just more fundamentally fair. And Trustee Walker, I apologize. I know you had some questions as well.
I'm reminded of being at Fritch Elementary School and being told that I had to map test all kindergartners the first month of school, and we had a newcomer who spoke no English, and I'm sitting there beside this sweet little girl who's trying to tap the screen and turning and talking to me, probably asking me what she's supposed to do. And I'm saying, well, just click. And even though we might get points because we force a kid to sit through a very uncomfortable situation. I think we're better than that. And I think that there needs to be a way to exempt students who have cognitive disabilities, who have, who are multilingual learners who might not have English language skills. And so, yeah, that might be the system the state has. But I think that for a kid, that's torturous. And a very uncomfortable situation becomes even worse when you're sitting there forced to do something you have no idea what you're supposed to be doing. And so that worries me.
Can school districts put in for an exemption?
No. Yeah,
Who would exempt?
there's an exemption there's medical exemptions, but it's really, we've never been successful with our medical exemptions, really. You almost have to prove that the test is going to almost kill the kid in order to get the exemption. It's like,
And
we're going to unplug the life support to plug in
And
their
I have one
computer.
more point that I think the main thing that really should be an eye opener for this board is how few measures really go into ranking our high schools. And it is based on that one test, that ACT for our juniors. There's some points for our science test, which is 9th or 10th grade, and then you have your graduation rates. And so it's really hard to gauge because every year you're getting a new group of kids taking that test. It's not like you could look at the data and say Molly grew 3 points this year. So I think that if anything, there should be a deep understanding that there really are few measures that are used to measure our high schools.
I agree with that, and I think it's important, as we started here with this mission statement that's in the strategic plan, that really, as a school district, we value a lot for our students, not just how they did on this particular test, on this particular day. As you mentioned, in high school, it's very narrow. Elementary and middle school, if you look at the elementary schools, you test 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. You don't test kinder 1 and 2. So your how you are rated as a school is based solely on 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and based on just the SBAC test, essentially SBAC test and attendance is your elementary star rating. Whereas we have a much broader view of what the benefits of schooling are. This provides us with some indicators, but I look at the NSPF indicators as only valuable in so much as that they illuminate what we have identified as valuable for our students, right? So we have said that it's important for our students to gain skills, knowledge, values, and opportunities while they're with the Carson City School District. NSPF gives us a little bit of a window into how we're doing in some of those areas. I wish it wasn't the big headline that it is of how many stars does each school have. And I think it's important that we as a school district really clearly understand and message to our community that we're about providing a very robust education that empowers students for a future where they thrive in whatever it is that they choose to pursue, and that they are truly life ready when they leave us in 12th grade.
And I also want to point out, like, even within the existing system, we did go up quite a few stars.
A lot to be proud of, a lot to celebrate, for sure.
Well, and I think and I appreciate what you just said is the headline. Because we know, and I mean, we know up here as a board and in the school district as well, there is a lot to be proud of. And yet, the headline focuses on, Carson High goes from a 4-point to a 3-point, but that's not, and that's what I think the message gets, it's not out there for the public. We get it. And we get that the schools are doing phenomenal work. The teachers, everybody is doing great work, the students, and we should be celebrating rather than focusing on 3 students that didn't take, the test, because the overall scoring is flawed. We all know that, and you and I spoke about it, last week as well. The decision makers are the ones that don't get it.
And hopefully there will be some changes there. And like I said, it's great that Dr. Medina is advocating for that in some meaningful ways, and hopefully people listen. Because it makes a difference how our schools are perceived and how our schools are perceived is very important to funding and support that we receive and the community at large.
Well, yeah, thank you. I also want to say I appreciate that you are focusing on all students. And so I think we are all in agreement that all of our students can be successful if we provide them with the right support. And I hear that from what I hear, that's all what we're focusing on. So thank you. Anybody else? Comments? Go ahead, Richard.
I don't want to get down in the weeds too much, but as I looked through this information earlier today, I noticed that there was some schools that I just chose EL. There were 5 points last year, 5 points this current year. And I'm wondering, when you don't see progress being made in a certain area, is that something you guys focus on to see if you can help that program? Because that may have made the difference in them raising up to the next star.
Yeah, that is certainly something, and Dr. Medina and I visited schools today, and we go through all of the schools at this time of year, and we go through EL in particular is one of the things that you spoke about, and that's something that we talk with each of the schools about. What is the system that's currently in place? How is it working? How do we know it's working? What additional supports do we need to put in place there? So we're having those discussions about the different systems in place to support all of our students and make sure that every student is getting the full benefit of their educational experience.
Yeah, and the principals and VPs and school staff, they like dig in, like they like overanalyze every number. And I would also point out like the EL numbers, sometimes the EL number is a little bit misleading because I think that we treat all ELL students as the same. So all English learners, whereas some of those English learners, you might be a school where you get a lot of newcomers, and then you might be a school that gets a lot of kids that are at WIDA level 4, and you only need to get up to like 4.5 to exit. And so that's two very different expectations for growth for those kids, depending on where they're pulling from. So sometimes that's some of that fluctuation in the EL numbers is because of those differences in kids, and especially if certain schools have really small EL populations compared to others. But it is something that we look at.
Yeah, good, because I just noticed some schools are getting the 10 points, quite a few, and then there's a few that seem like, at least the information we had, consistently like 5. And so that was my question, if you guys are paying attention and getting extra help to them.
Absolutely.
So then with those schools, when you notice that, do you then move staff around for support?
It
And
can
maybe give
be.
that school more support?
It depends on the situation. So, for instance, you might have a student or a school that has 200 students who are EL and only getting 5 of the points. You might have another school who only has 20 students who are EL and also only getting 5 points. The school with 20 students and they already have a teacher probably doesn't need a second teacher, right? The school with 200, it might be that they need an additional teacher or additional aides, additional resources in that way, right? So we're going to dig into that number a little bit more and see what is it that is the root cause of the problem, and is it a question of we need more staff to support? Is it a question of we need to align curriculum a little bit better? That was the discussion that we had today with one of the elementary schools, was they're seeing some things that we could possibly do with some different alignment in curriculum so that we are providing that support, not with more people, but with better alignment of resources, if that makes sense. Yeah, so we do look at each of those, and then the support that is provided to the schools is based on working with them and helping to identify what is the root cause of the challenges that they're dealing with. Yeah, welcome.
I'm just going to say, it's an interesting observation. I noticed that our students on the read by 3 proficiency, our Latino students have a higher percentage than the Caucasian on many of the schools. I thought that was interesting. Yet we look at the data on science, and the Latino students are way lower than the Caucasian. It was an interesting observation, but I thought they start off well, and then they get to the, fourth grade, and then things start changing.
It's one of the great benefits of getting this type of data on our students is when we dig in, we find some things that are surprising, some things that might not be surprising that fall in line with maybe, well, that's kind of what you would expect to be happening. But then there's times where you find things that you're like, that is not what I expected to be happening. Why is that happening? And how can we make some adjustments around that is one of the benefits that we get from getting this type of detailed data on our students.
Well, once again, thank you so much for all that work
You're
that you guys
welcome.
put into this. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody else, questions or comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to leave basically thank you as well for putting together that presentation and bringing it all to us to look at tonight. Dr. Medina, thank you. I really appreciate your passion, and you've seemed very invested and very thorough, and like we're lucky to have you, and you're a good guy to have on the job. So just in case you don't hear that enough, I wanted you to hear it again tonight. Thank you for all the ways you shine.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
definitely.
Got to listen, AJ.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both very much. Right, agenda item number 9, discussion and possible action to approve a monetary incentive for early notification from administrative, certified, and classified staff of their intent to resign / retire from the Carson City School District at the conclusion of the 2025-2026 school year, which may have a fiscal impact not to exceed $60,000 within the current budget cycle, and this is for possible action. Superintendent Feeling and Mr. Dan Sadler.
Thank you, President Ramirez. Tonight, we're bringing to you something that is not a new idea to the district, but the timing is a little different. The dollar amount tagged to it is a little different. And so we need to talk a little bit through that for your consideration to approve this. So starting 2 years ago, the district for the first time offered an incentive for our staff to notify us early at a specific date of their intent to resign or retire from the district. And I think it's important to frame this and just think of this as a tool that we have in our tool belt. And it was very much a tool used to help us in hiring of staff. That was the absolute intent of it. And I think from a hiring standpoint, it was a tool that was very successfully used, and certainly we appreciate that the board was willing to allow us to do that. It has helped us get ahead of the hiring timeline that many other districts have, and get positions out there. And with the fine work that Mr. Sadler and his staff have done, it really has been beneficial for us. I would also note that while there is a cost to that, it is a cost that is paid for out of existing vacancy savings. So we, at all times, have some positions that are open, sometimes for the whole year, sometimes for a partial year. But the value of that vacancy savings well exceeds this amount. So in the past, when we've asked for $40,000, and this current time, as presented, is asking for $60,000, it is not an additional burden upon the budget. It is funds that are within the current budget as approved. The difference, I think, this time, and really it has to do in the bigger picture of the budget situation that we're looking at, is that we're looking at it, it's still a tool to support hiring, but it is also a tool to help with budget planning and staffing. So by the notifications happening potentially earlier, so last year we were looking at these notifications, I think it was end of February was the time frame that we were asking for staff to notify us. In this case, it would help for budget planning going forward and planning for staffing going forward to know if there are staff that are planning to leave the district. As I stated at the last meeting, we, Mr. Winward presented a projection on the budget for next year, and that if adjustments need to be made to reduce the projected budget deficit, that if staffing would be impacted, that by all accounts, the goal would be to do that through attrition. And so this is kind of a way to allow for that understanding and to have that knowledge ahead of time so that thoughtful planning can occur. This is still really early in the budget cycle. And so having this kind of information can be helpful as we start moving into that budget building process. One thing to note specifically as well is staffing for the or at the secondary level, this is especially helpful. And so what you're going to have here coming right around the corner in January or early February is students at the middle school and high school level are going to be submitting requests for their classes for the next year. And so as the secondary schools are planning on what classes are going to be available, knowing potentially if there's going to be impact to their staffing would be helpful in terms of determining what the capacities are of the different programs at the schools, how many students they can serve in all of these different programs. But so the timing of it really is the primary factor in bringing this much earlier than we have in previous years. And so the idea is really the same, is offering some type of incentive for staff to notify us that they are going to be leaving the district here sometime before the end of the first semester, likely. And we have more, a larger dollar amount in there. And the thought to that is if giving that notice to us a bit earlier than maybe a timeline that they had planned on, that there is kind of more of an incentive to try to figure that out on our staff members' side, if that's a decision that they are going to be making, and then committing and notifying us of that decision.
So I'm just wondering if we're going to ask earlier, is this binding? Because if somebody's going to project in November that they're going to separate at the end of the year, and then spring comes along and they're like, never mind, I changed my mind, and we've set budgets based on ratios, I guess my question is, if they could change their mind, it's not going to make any sense to do it earlier.
That's a great question. Dan Sadler for the record. So through board policy, I accept the letter of resignation, but only the board can release a letter of resignation. So we would set it up so that if we're putting this out there to employees and they're filling out that they're resigning, that is their indication to us that they are resigning. And you as a board would be the only decision maker to release them from that obligation.
To follow up on what Mr. Walker said, I think my problem with that is a lot can happen in 6 to 8 months in somebody's life, and I don't know if we want to time into not being able to change without coming before the board. I guess we could do that, but I also have other problems with the concept, if I could go ahead. everybody says, and you, both you guys say that this has been a tremendous success, right? And I believe it has by the stats and everything. But what I disagree with is if it's a tremendous success now, why do we want to change it? Why do we have to change it? Why do we have to go from offering $1,000 to $2,000? And what is the real benefit of moving it up 2 months or whatever it's going to be? And I don't know the exact time frame that you want to move it back to.
Yeah, I would say we don't have to. That's a suggestion. I think in particular, if they know they're retiring at the end of the year, $2,000 is more of an incentive to get that conversation completed with PERS than 1,000. So that's certainly something up for discussion. That's just a suggestion.
Because they're also, getting a buyout from their time they have. So, they have other money coming at the end of their employment. I'm just opposed to increasing it from 1,000 to 2,000. I could support doing what we're doing now for another year. But also, we're in the budget talks about the deficit that we're going to be having. And to spend, even though it's only $20,000, but maybe that money could go somewhere else that may be more beneficial.
And I think just a couple things. I think that this is probably prompted from the discussion at the last board meeting where we're asking to identify areas to cut. And so to do that effectively, they're going to have a good sense of who's going to stick around and who we're going to be replacing with potentially cheaper labor. So I think that's one thing. I think that, and I just want to clarify, we are not buying out people's contracts. We're given an early incentive. So what you're talking, there is a retirement most employees who are vested have in PERS, but that's not an expense to the district. I just want to be clear that we're not buying out contracts.
And I realize that. And I'm saying that the program has been successful according to the information we've been provided. So my question is, why do we need to go from $1,000 incentive to a $2,000 incentive if the program has been successful? Why are we increasing the incentive, I guess?
Thank you, Trustee Warner. I think that's a very fair question. I don't know that it does have to. I think in our minds there was maybe something to increasing the incentive a bit, just so that recognizing that this is an even earlier notification and maybe takes a little more logistical work on the part of our employees to figure out, is this really something that they are ready to do and can commit to do. So I think the reality is we would be very grateful if we think it would be helpful for the district if something was approved to, even if it is in line with what we've done previously. But the key thing with this is because of the timing. When you're talking about scheduling for next year, it's helpful for our schools to know what their staffing may look like. And just, for example, if at one of our schools, maybe it's identified that there is a math teacher, there's a little bit of a difference between if there is a math teacher that is retiring and how we handle that, and if there is a retirement in our vernacular, what we call a singleton classroom, where there is only one teacher who teaches a specific class, and if it's something that we do need to continue. So we may handle those situations a little bit differently.
But just so it's clear, I'm sorry, is I would be in favor of continuing the program with the 1,000. I'm just opposed to increasing the incentive to 2,000 when we're talking about budget deficits. And even though it's a tiny amount of money overall, it's still $20,000 that may be able to go to some other program to reduce the amount of general fund that we're having to put into those programs.
And just for the record, because I don't think you had this information, we did this first 2 years ago, approved $40,000 and spent 28,000. And then last year, again, approved 40,000 and spent 30,000. So we have not reached the ceiling of either year.
Michelle?
And those are kind of where my questions were going to go. We've had this the last 2 years, and it's been, if you notify by February, it's $1,000, and then is the change to 2,000, is that just if you notify by December, and then if it's still December through January, it's still just down at that $1,000 incentive?
Potentially. We haven't actually defined a date for when the notification, this earlier notification would
It
have
says
to.
December 1st on our paperwork.
Oh, Mr. Sadler identified a date. Sorry, we had talked about it, but.
Yeah.
And so is that how that would read, that if it's by December, it's the 2,000 bump, but if it's after December but still before February, it's down at that 1,000?
I think it certainly could be. This was put together as if we were just doing $2,000 and getting that early notification. I think one thing that, to the staffing conversation and the way we do scheduling and whatnot too, it's not just we're going to take, if somebody notifies us, we're going to put that position on hold. Some of these we know we're going to have to fill just based on what we know about our student populations. But it could also be a trickle-down effect in that maybe there's another position that's going to be something that we're not going to be able to support in the future, but that person could go back into one of the positions that we know we're going to have open. And so again, kind of back to what Mr. Fueling was saying, attrition is really the way that we would like to approach a lot of the staffing budget conversation. And this time is on our side right now, as far as if we can get in front of this, and we do have people who identify that they're going to be resigning at the end of the year, that gives us a little bit more to work with in that conversation for all of those reasons.
And then to follow up on that, I think you had said 28,000 was what was spent for it last year.
That was in 23-24. Last year was 30,000.
Okay, so does that mean there were 30 people who let you know that far in advance that they were? Okay, so I was going to ask typically how many people take advantage. And so if we have that $20,000 cap, that's only, where did that 20,000 come from? I don't know if that was in here.
So last time, the last 2 years it was approved for
Oh, with the cap.
40,000 in total, and this
Got it,
year we have 60,000.
And so have we seen success in that? Like, I feel like more of the focus last time, we talked about it last year or earlier in the year, was so that when we knew there were vacancies, we could get the jobs posted sooner so that we had the broad pool to draw from rather than kind of the dried up puddle to choose from it for people letting us know late. Like that seemed to be the major push of why we wanted people to let us know. Have you, rather than that, have you been able to find places where we've been able to just cut? Like how much has this incentive actually ended up? I don't know if that's too exact of a number, but has it yielded results on the other side of things? Does that make sense?
Well, I think our staffing numbers kind of speak for themselves in that. And when you look at the information that we've gathered over the last couple of years, and just like this year, we started the school year with 3 teacher vacancies. Like that's a historic low for us. So is it just a direct result of this? No, but it helps us get the first crack at people as far as when they're out there looking for positions. Again, time has been on our side by having this approved, and that we can beat other counties to the punch, so to speak, as far as candidates who are looking for positions. I still think this would be very helpful for filling positions, because we're usually about 50 people that leave us, not this early and notify us, but just year by year. If we go look at the data, there's about 50 people that resign or retire. And so those are replacements that we're having to do year by year. So I think even at the end of any conversation with budget, we're still going to have positions that we're going to need to fill. And so I do think that that looking at the previous 2 years and how this has helped us, especially with the timing of it, it would continue to do so.
So, Mr. Sadler, so the funds from the vacancy positions, are we able to transfer those funds to other categories if needed? So then
Yes.
it's possible that we could use those funds for other areas where we are in need of. Okay, so that's my hesitation on the increase, because I'm thinking if we have a budget deficit, we certainly would want to keep those funds and be able to utilize them for other expenses that we must cover. Did you have, Molly, did you have a question or comment? Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I do have a concern about the timing being December 1st. And I should say my reservation is that we're asking for retirements without even a classified contract yet. And so we don't have, right, the classifieds don't have their contract yet. And yet, though, we're going to put out who's ready to retire. And here's an incentive for those of you who are ready to retire. But so it feels as though we're putting something in front of the horse. But I would be more comfortable if we had the classified contract in place before we go ahead and start asking for retirement and giving incentives for retirements on that end. So that's one concern. And then, yes, I feel as though it's not broken. The 1,000 isn't broken. We saw, the 24 with the 31 year and the 24 1 year with 1,000. And so I feel as if it, if it decreases and if it isn't an incentive at that end, then maybe at the time, increase it. But my overall heartburn, though, is the timing. I wish we would have that finished first.
Anybody else? Comments, concerns, questions?
I think what hasn't been addressed is, because I'm comfortable with either way, supporting you with moving it to $2,000, 1,000, 2,000, it's not a huge difference. What was the motivation for proposing an increase? Is it that you're trying to make it more attractive to find out earlier from people? I think that's what isn't clear, is what was the reason for that?
I think that's exactly it. It's especially in terms of people considering retirement. It's a big decision, and so there is time spent going to PERS offices to figure out what that looks like. Time spent with family, trying to understand if this is something that makes sense for them. So I think that happens at any point on the timeline, but we're asking for it a bit earlier than we have in the past. And, it's hard. We're barely through the first semester of school, right? And so it seems strange to be thinking that, right? Sorry, first quarter of school, yeah. So it seems like we're well ahead of the game. But again, for planning purposes, it actually is helpful. And I think the bottom line is we would certainly like to continue offering this to staff if the dollar amount looks different than what it is here. I think as long as it is in line with what we've done the last couple of years and we've had success with it. So I think the bigger issue is that we for us is that we have something that we can offer, but certainly up to your discretion.
Yeah, I think the timing of it, like earlier is better. So maybe December 1st is too early. Maybe January 1st is better. February, we know that worked, but back to the scheduling of, especially in the secondary schools, and the staffing conversations, that is starting to push that conversation pretty late.
Sorry, you were going.
I would support continuing with $1,000, and if you wanted to move it back a little bit from February to January, I don't see that as a real big hindrance or even incentive, really. So I would be willing to support to continue this program. One other concern I have long-term is when you offer things like these incentives, and then at some point you have to take them away. And then somebody's gonna say, well, last year they got $1,000 or 2,000, whatever the case may be, and now we're no longer able to offer it. So I think that's something that we have to keep in mind too. But I would support continuing the program like we have it now, but not with the increase in the incentive.
Just so we know what the feeling of the board is, I would as well, but I would not support December 1st to start it. I think that's too early, and I'd like to see other things get rectified before then. But if it's whether, February 1st, January 1st, I would support that at 1,000 as well.
Did you say 1,000? Okay. All right. Well, if there are no other questions or comments, this is an action item.
I want to add in, I really appreciate you guys and coming up with these ideas. And I'm kind of leaning with my board members here, my fellow members, about keeping it at 1,000. But like, I hate saying no, because like the more you shoot down creative ideas, like people might stop coming up with creative ideas. But I think this incentive program is great, and it's clearly been working, and it's yielded some really great results. And so even if this goes to a no for you, please keep coming up with these creative ideas and swinging for the fences on stuff, even if it doesn't always turn out into a yes, because when it does turn into a yes and it's successful, we come up with really great things. So please keep thinking.
I appreciate that. Just so you know, I've got all kinds of crazy creative ideas that he shoots down before they even make it here.
All
so.
the time. He's incredibly creative.
I have a question, though. I mean, we can amend the action item. We don't have to read it verbatim of what's here, right? We can, this is just a suggestion, so I can make a motion right now, and then we can go for it, so we're not shooting down the whole line. Okay, thank you. Can I?
I will entertain a motion.
All right, thank you. I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees approve a $1,000 monetary incentive for early notification for administrative certified classified staff of their intent to resign, retire from the Carson City School District at the conclusion of the 25-26 school year. And employees who would submit when written notification of retirement by January 1st of 2026, which may have a fiscal impact not to exceed $30,000 within the current budget cycle.
I'll second with an amendment. I'd like to suggest we move that to the end of the first week back from winter break. So it's typically like, that would be like January 7th or 8th or whatever that would be.
I'm right here, so I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and amend that to January 16th, which is a Friday, January 16th, 2026.
I'll second that.
And I'm sorry, Molly, what was the amount?
Hold on.
If I could just ask, so the past few years, the cap amount has actually been 40,000, not 30,000.
That's why I was asking.
Okay,
Okay,
sorry, then
so
I
ju-
shall amend that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so then, thank you, Spencer. So the amendment would read then that the district at the conclusion of the 2025 resigned school year, which would then submit their written notification of retirement by January 16th of 2026, which may have a fiscal impact not to exceed $40,000 within the current budget cycle.
And I'll amend my second.
And can I just make a clarification for the record to make sure I understand it's clear? Your motion is to approve a monetary incentive plan of up to $40,000, allocated up to $1,000 for each employee that participates.
That is correct.
Thank you, Ryan, for
And with the date of, employees would have until December 16th to submit their written notification, or January 16th of
January.
2026
And was it-
to submit their notification of retirement.
Sorry, did we say, Trustee Walker, I think you said when they return from the break?
Winter break, I was thinking, because sometimes people are traveling,
Sure.
and I just
don't know actually what that date is.
she looked it up.
Okay.
So we would return from winter break on January 5th, and he said the week after. And so then I picked that Friday, which is January 16th, because January 19th is a Monday and it's a holiday. So it would be Friday, January 16th.
It would actually give them, the employees, the entire week back if we went with the 9th, the Friday the 9th.
January 9th, 2026.
I'll
Okay.
agree to that also.
Okay. Okay.
Good luck, Renee.
So motion by trustee Walt and second by trustee Walker. Any board discussion?
Well, I would just say, if needed, this could be revisited if there is a real need for an increased incentive. And so I would say that you just need to let us know, and if we need to revisit this item, then bring it back.
And before I say aye, I just want to confirm, we're saying 1,000 each.
Yes.
Capped at 40 by January
Yes.
9th, 26.
Up to 40. Mhm.
Thank you.
Any public comment? See none? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much for both of you for
Thank you.
those creative ideas. We appreciate it. Okay. Agenda item number 10, discussion on CCSD budget for fiscal year 2026, 2027, and this is for discussion only. Superintendent Feeling?
Thank you, President Ramirez. And yeah, I think it's really important to understand that this is not an action item. This is just discussion. So at the last meeting, Mr. Winward presented a projection on the next year's budget, a very, and I just want to emphasize again, early projection. But it was a number, I think, higher than everyone would be comfortable with for the long term. And so one of the things I think to understand is how did we get where we are? You have a really interesting legislative session that happened in 2023 that created the largest single-year increase that education has ever seen that I'm aware of, which was hugely beneficial. And we were able to not only offer salary increases, but also identify areas where we could use some additional resources to support students. And the hard part about having such a huge win is that it lulls you into thinking that this is how it's going to be. And that clearly is not the case. You know. And so you have two really big factors that play in to where we are, what we're looking at in the 26-27 school year. And one of those, the two primary factors in revenue are your enrollment and your per pupil numbers. And there is a reality that Carson City, like every district across the state, and like the majority, overwhelming majority of districts across the country, are seeing enrollment declines. And so as enrollments decline, you are generating less revenue. And then you have that per pupil amount that is often talked about. And in this last legislative session, the per pupil amounts, after enormous increases over the past 2 years, the per pupil amount for this year was effectively flat. And for next year, there is a slight increase, but it's not as impactful as we certainly would like it to be. And so I think that is just the nature of the business that we are in. But I think it's important to understand, and this is something I haven't said to this group in a long time, but we have a revenue problem. We don't have an expenditure problem. But that revenue problem forces expenditure decisions. Having a stable funding stream that you can rely upon over time is incredibly valuable to any organization. And that when you have a revenue stream that is primarily funded from sales taxes tend to be rather volatile and really follow the economy. And so the reality is, as going into the 23 legislative session, sales taxes absolutely exploded because of all the inflation going on. When the price of something goes up because of inflation, well, more sales tax gets collected on it. So we really reaped the benefit of that. As that has not continued increasing at such a rate, that's where I think the impact on that per pupil amount really was impactful. But I think it's also important then, as we look at this, that we're not in panic mode. This isn't a crisis time. We have been through times like this before, and successfully navigated those and continue to be in a strong financial position. And I want to reiterate again that it is still really early in this budgeting process. Historically, we really haven't had these kind of conversations this early in a school year. So one of the things that I'm looking for from you is just a sense of what is a reasonable place to land in terms of what this budget for the 26-27 school year looks like. And that landing point is effectively not asking necessarily how much we need to cut. It's just in every given school year, we have a budget. And that budget may land with a surplus or a deficit, generally lands with a deficit. But what is the deficit that, at least at this point, and I think recognizing that there are a lot of variables in all this and things could change. You could have a recession hit, and in this special session, all of a sudden we're talking about further cuts. You could find out that Sea Hill is actually made entirely of gold, and all of a sudden there's more funds for the state of Nevada. But just given where we are right now, what's that? They might sweep those, yeah. Don't talk to Eureka County about that. And so, yeah, go ahead.
You know, one of the things that I don't even want to say that bothers me about this conversation, but I think I want to be careful, because when we keep saying we have deficit spending, it sounds like we as a board and you as a district office are being irresponsible with our resources. And by nature of our funding mechanism, it's a projected deficit, and we shore up multiple times throughout the year based on enrollment and expenses. And so, you know, yes, there's a projected deficit, and all districts in the state are dealing with this right now. And so I just want to be really clear that we're not deficit spending because we're just spending hand over fist. This is the mechanism of educational funding in the state of Nevada.
Thank you, Trustee Walker. And I would go back again to, it's a revenue problem, not an expenditure problem. You look at Nevada school districts comparably to school districts out east that have much higher levels of funding. Staffing looks very different, right? Because they have more money to support their students. But I think it's a good point too, that ultimately, when we talk about this, there is a really important difference in terms of budget and audited actual figures that finalize. And so when we budget, we're budgeting at 100% of the costs of all of the staff we are expecting to have serving students. The reality is that we never are fully staffed, right? So there always ends up being savings. We have a long history in this district of also, when it comes to operational budgets, so non-staffing budgets that all of our departments in our schools have, where if we try to avoid the use it or lose it mentality. And so if departments or schools have some underspend on their budget up to a certain amount, they can carry some of that over into the next year so that they're not wasting funds buying ridiculous things that aren't helpful, but they're trying to spend it down for fear of potentially losing that budget authority in future years. I think it's also important to note too that the nature of our industry is it's very labor intensive. So over 80% of our costs are staffing costs. If you, I think our operational budgets are right around $9 million, non-staffing budgets are right around $9 million in total. And so, you could say, well, let's cut $1 million of that. Well, we can't shut off the lights and turn off the heat, right? There's certain things that we need to keep going, and utilities happen to be a really big chunk of that $9 million. So I think the way I'm kind of processing this in my mind is there are certainly adjustments that need to be made for next year. But I think there's also a reality to we are seeing declining enrollment likely for years on out at this point, based on the size of our kindergarten, first and second grade classes versus our 10th, 11th, 12th grade classes. And so I think this is something that, being cognizant of that and how that impacts the budget is something that is just going to become a part of what we do and how we plan. So in my mind, it's maybe a 2-year process to try to get fully back to a place where wherever the budget lies, that it's much more likely that we end up coming in about break even. We're spending all the revenues that we have in that given year. With that said, I think for next year, the idea of knowing that we may need to deficit spend a little bit and dip into reserves, which we have, and we can easily cover that, may give us a nice bridge over a 2-year period to get us back to a point where we feel more comfortable with the numbers that we are seeing. And so the projected budget deficit that Spencer had for next year was, I think, $5.8 million. If we were able to, in my mind, I'd like to have it be, just because of when you're talking about programs, sometimes the costs are very locked in. And so if you're removing them or adjusting them, it may not have, like, to say, well, we really want to see a no more than a $2.5 million projected deficit. That might be really difficult to navigate to a number that clean. But if there were a range of like 2.5, at least initially for what we bring back to you, if there were a range of, say, 2.5 to 3 or 2.5 to 3.5, then we can come back with, here are the options that we see given what's happening with staffing, given enrollment levels. But having that, I think, would at least give us a relative goal in mind of what we need to do to get down to that number. Excuse me. So that's, I guess, effectively what I wanted you all to be able to have a little conversation about, or at least kind of show your thoughts on it. But in my mind, my suggestion at this point would be for a goal range somewhere between, say, 2.5 and 3.5 million. And then from there, we can come to you with, here's what that impact may look like. Here's what options we do have. And we can continue the conversations from there. But it really at this point, there's no commitment. It's just giving us an idea of what we need to be looking at. If it were saying, look, you need to cut completely in 1 year, 5.8 million, that is a very different conversation than saying bringing it down to 3 or 3.5 million or 2.5 million.
And it's really hard to do this without numbers in front of you, you know? So
Sure.
if we did that incremental approach, and so we said, get it down between 2.5, 3.5, what does that do to our ending fund balance?
Sure. That's a really important question. So I think, again, there's a reality to the difference between what we're budgeting and where the numbers actually fall. And so, for example, you know, historically, well, let's say that we don't fill 10 positions throughout a school year. That could generate a savings anywhere between $800,000 to $1 million. So when you're talking about the impact to ending fund balance, the projected deficit is not going to be the actual impact because of that. But if ending fund balance were to fall by, say, $4 million, we would still end up having approximately a 16% ending fund balance. So we're still healthy by the judgment of national organizations that specialize in this sort of thing. And that's where, too, I think we have some wiggle room to potentially navigate this over a 2-year period, because I don't necessarily think it'll actually drop that much. But it does give us some wiggle room. In the same way we had some wiggle room back coming out of the Great Recession. The district had a healthy fund balance at that time. I was looking back at historical budgets, and there have been, I think, three different times that we've had approved budgets with deficits of over 5 million, and none of them came in anywhere near in those years to those numbers. We had one that was over 6 million. And again, when you have vacancies and things like that, it always ends up reducing the impact of that. So I think maybe the way to approach this, I know this is a really hard question to give a definitive answer to, but if we come back with a range, somewhere in the range of reductions to get us to a point where it's about a $2.5 to $3.5 million projected deficit, is that a reasonable place to come back and as a starting point for conversations?
Yeah, so thank you. That's a fair question. And I think we addressed, that it's nothing binding, and you would come back to us and let it, give us an overall of what it's going to look like if we did that. So I think that's fair to ask, and I appreciate the time and the work that you're all putting into this and giving us a heads up before, it comes down to the, I guess, the nuts and bolts of it all. But my one question before I get into the budget is, we continue to discuss enrollment, and decreasing, but we continue to see building going on in Carson. They're getting ready to do whatever by Smith's, to my understanding, an apartment complex or whatever, and they have the new stuff over, by Highway 50. So why is our enrollment decreasing? Who's moving in? Who's filling those spots?
So to our west a bit, there's some mountains we call the Sierra Nevadas. On the other side of those mountains is a land called California. And there are many people who seem to be trekking across that mountain range that don't have children. So it really is, I go back to 2015, 2016 when I, first couple years here, and talking with Hope Sullivan at the and Lee Plummel when he was at the city about all the developments that were planned for Carson. And I mean, we were running projections assuming that the ratio of children of the entire population of Carson City, which I think, I'm trying to remember, I think it was like 15%. Like 15% was all like school age children. I can't remember exactly what it was, but kind of extrapolating that out because they were talking about, well, full build out for Carson City was expected to be 75 to 80,000 people, right? And that with all these construction projects happening, that would probably happen sooner than later. And so we had come up with an enrollment projection where we would end up landing around having about 10,000 kids in the district. And we would need to build 2 more elementary schools, 1 more middle school. And unless you wanted Carson High School to have between 30, I think it was like 3,700 or 4,100 kids, we were doing ranges, you'd need to build a new high school. And that incredibly, I think caught us all off guard as all of this construction has happened and there aren't nearly as many kids coming with it that we would have expected. I think a really good example actually, so Empire Elementary in 2014 had almost 600 students. It's now under 400. And even just in the last, I think, year and a half, there were all those apartment complex that opened over there. And I think it's like a lower rent apartment complex. And yet, and we went into a new school year. I mean, that was built last school year, went into a new school year, and Empire's enrollment fell again. And you would just think that that might be a place where if young families are trying to find something affordable in Carson City, that might be where they landed. Well, apparently not. So it's really interesting to see that the apartment complex behind Casino Fandango that was built some years ago, Carson Hills Apartments, I think it's 391 units. I haven't looked at this in a while, but I think we looked at it 2 years ago. 391 units, and there were only 19 children. We just would have expected many more, over 100, based on our original calculations. So.
Thank you for that information. I appreciate it.
I can tell you, I mean, we all know it's not just here. It's kind of a nationwide thing. As you know, I was just back in Wisconsin, and some of the local news there was talking about the drop in enrollment in the school systems and the effect it's having on their budgets. And so I think it's kind of nationwide.
It is, and a lot of it, I mean, clearly they don't all have all states don't have the proximity to California and just the situation. It's kind of unique to us. But the reality is there are lower birth rates, so families are just having fewer kids overall. And I think that is really impactful as well. The birth rates in Carson City, if you go back 20 years, I think there were a number of years where there were over 800 births in Carson City, and now it's in the mid low 500 range for the most part.
Do we have any information about the amount of kids that are being homeschooled here in the Carson City area? Do we track that or get any information on that?
So homeschooling has definitely, so from prior to COVID, the number of homeschool students has certainly increased in terms of applications we're getting in a year. What is really unfortunate is that after that application happens, the first application, there is no information after that. So families don't need to check in with us again each year. There's no real relationship otherwise between the district and those families. So it certainly has increased with the number of applications we have received. It increased dramatically kind of in the middle of the COVID times, and it has fallen off, but it's still higher. It seemed to have landed higher than where we were prior to COVID. One thing to note too, within Nevada, Elko County School District, I believe in the last 3 years now has almost lost 1,000 students. They were getting, I think, around like 9,800, maybe a little lower than that, but they have seen significant population enrollment declines out in that area. So yeah, impacting different districts differently. Lyon has declining enrollment, not nearly as much as we have, I think, because of the growth out in Fernley. And there's affordable housing out in that area, so that certainly helps them out. But every district that I'm aware of in the state has some level of declining enrollment.
Richard?
Yeah, if I could, getting back on the budget, I know it's a lot of work for you guys to concentrate so heavily on the budget this time of year, but I think it's very prudent of the board and the district to look at the numbers as we go along, especially as we know the declining enrollment, the lack of funds that coming in. So I appreciate you guys being willing to take this task on, because I know it's a lot of work. But like I said earlier, I think it's a prudent thing for all of us to do. And I think we just appreciate you bringing the information forward. And it's a hard thing for us to sit here and say, okay, well, 2.5 to 3.5, it's kind of difficult because how many years do we do that,
And I think it's important, again, just to note that I think this is going to be more than a one-year process in terms of we expect to see, not really knowing what's going to come out of the legislature, but if we know that there is generally enrollment decline, it's something that just needs to be in our radar year after year, that we're looking at class sizes, making sure that they make sense. And otherwise continuing to look for other opportunities to just reduce as we go. It's just a different situation than we were in going into COVID, because we had several years, even though we did have some deficits during that time, we had several years of just enrollment growth. It looked like it was going to continue on, and that's just not where it seems to have kept going.
Then we talk about vacancy savings, and my concern there is if we rely upon vacancy savings, if we have to reduce due to student enrollment drops, then we're not going to have the vacancy savings because we're not going to have those positions available. Is that right?
That could be absolutely correct. Yeah, it is something we have to take into consideration. And I think we've never really had that good problem before of just having full staffing and not considering any type of vacancy savings. But I think depending on how this year goes, next year will be kind of a really good snapshot of what that looks like as we make some adjustments for next year.
Molly, did you have another?
Well, so right now you're asking, I'm sorry, I took you on the tangent on enrollment, but thank you for the information. But what you're asking of us then is to kind of give you a baseline. And you're suggesting, like 2.5 to 3.5. And so then are you asking us if we're comfortable with that, or if you would like more of a pinpoint?
I think just generally, and again, not there's
Okay.
No voting or anything like that, but just generally, if that ballpark is a good place to start, and maybe it's more of instead of needing people to say, I think that's a good idea, does anyone really not like that as a?
I like 2 better than 3.
I was going
Okay.
to say
That's
that.
all I said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do think that we want to be careful in that. And so I want to say the responsible thing for us to do would be to say, yes, please bring us options in that range so we can make a final decision. Because if we say, let's go to 2, and then we're looking at mass layoffs. I know, I'm just saying that I think that what we should say to him is, yes, bring us options in that range, and then we'll assess as we get closer to that range in the year.
That's fair.
So I feel comfortable with the discussion, and I think we can move. So,
Well, thank you for bringing this discussion to us and for, asking for input and being, most importantly, for being proactive, in this topic. So, all right. are going to move on to agenda item number 11, discussion and proposed changes to CCSD Regulation 805, Emergency Operations of Schools. And this is for discussion only. Superintendent Feeling?
Thank you, President Ramirez. This is a pretty simple one. It's a regulation, so it doesn't, we're not looking for action on this. One of the, so Regulation 805 regarding emergency operations of schools, and really, for the most part, if you can think about how does a snow day work, this is how a snow day works. Like that's where this goes, or just, you know, bad weather, bad air quality, things like that. Some minor modifications, we've added some of the primary media contacts on the second page, just added 2 more that we do get information out to, just so that is known and available when we have a snow day or a delayed start or anything like that. On the last page of this regulation, under delayed opening, really this is the kind of most significant change, although I don't think it is very significant. When we initially, last time we brought this to the board back in October of 22, we made quite a few adjustments to this, and one of those was with a delayed opening, asking staff to, and the idea was really was safety, and the idea of asking staff to report at least 15 minutes early, but no more than 30 minutes early on a delayed start school day. One of the issues we have run into is that students are showing up before that 15 minutes. And so then you run into a different safety issue and supervision issue of students. And so reached out. Yeah, yeah. And so the thought was changing this really to be more in line with kind of a normal workday anyway, but reporting at least 30 minutes before, but not more than 45 minutes before. And that will likely help with the supervision of students who may be arriving a little bit earlier. We did reach out to our to OCEA, CESA, and our Administrators Association. They were all supportive of the change. So just bringing it to you to notify you and just take any questions or concerns about that.
Questions or comments?
I just have one off-the-wall question. So when you anticipate snow, do you set your alarm for 5 a.m. just to see what it looks like, or 4:55,
3 a.m.
or 3 a.m.?
Because we have to make the call by 5.
Yeah, that's what I was
So
thinking.
I have a route that I drive around to go check out what things look like. I have a doctorate in meteorology and road quality. So
And a magic 8 ball?
Yeah, in a magic 8 ball. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
no, I was
Those
just-
are early days. The winter of 22-23 was horrible.
I still think Mr. Stokes had you beat. I think he was in his van before 3:30.
Mr. Stokes didn't sleep, actually.
No other questions or comments? All right, well, thank you. And agenda item number 12, informational update on the district strategic plan, Power Carson City 2027, and this is for discussion only. Superintendent Feeling?
Thank you, President Ramirez. So every quarter, we bring back success standards or metrics related to the strategic plan that were approved by this board, just to give a sense of, given the 5 goals of the strategic plan, what direction are we moving in, and to be able to have some conversations around, are we moving towards trying to meet those goals of our strategic plan. So each quarter, then bringing this back to you, and as a reminder, well, we are this is the fall of 2025 report. We actually did have a couple of the data points that are in the winter category. The white box signifies we would be reporting in that quarter. But since we did have some of the data, I did add that in here. There were none for goal 1. We'll be bringing you the 2 white boxes there, the information to you, likely at the beginning of January. On page 2, goal 2, the ELA and math proficiency rates, and very related to the presentation, the excellent presentation. I do say so myself. Ricky left, but you guys did a great job. But those proficiency rates very much play into the star ratings. And so as you kind of saw, generally, especially in math, moving much in the right direction. ELA not moving as much, but generally moving in the right direction as well. So happy to see that. Clearly, we would like to see those numbers continue moving in that positive direction. Having below that, 100% of our students having access to one-to-one technology, we still are maintaining that. I read something interesting that in the country of Sweden, where the Scandinavian countries are generally pretty cutting edge when it comes to technology adoption and usage. And so Sweden was one of the first countries that brought technology in heavily into its schools. And they have, over the past few years, had some schools across the country that really kind of questioning the all-out usage and adoption of devices in the schools and starting to pull back from that. And apparently that is now an ongoing conversation in that country where they've fully embraced technology and the use in education, that they're now starting to question, I don't want to necessarily say the value, but I think the impacts beyond what they ever expected and how that may actually be hindering learning in some ways. So more to come, I would guess, on that. But
That's interesting.
for goal 3, don't have anything to report right now. On goal 4, I left one from last year still red. That should be black. Sorry, the second one down. For the amount of 100% of students having access to health or wellness curriculum in their different schooling levels, that still is at 100%, and physical education being offered each year. Daily average attendance did increase slightly. And I thought that was a really good point that Dr. Medina and Mr. Bringhurst brought up regarding chronic absenteeism, where you can actually have a child that, moving from missing 40% of days down to 20% of days, a huge improvement, and that would really show up in your average daily attendance. And in some ways, I think this may even be a better statistic in kind of getting a sense of what's happening in the schools. But in that case, that child would still be considered chronically absent, even though they improved dramatically. So, but regardless, it continues to slowly tick up.
It's just because it's next week and it may affect attendance. Are we a tad bit concerned on how the elimination or hold on SNAP might affect our attendance when it comes to, because with that, I mean, and I bring it up in goal 4 because it is healthy generations of students, and I don't know what we're thinking, and if the school district has anything that they're looking at doing, to kind of help students. But I bring this up because, ironically, in the last week, I received 3 phone calls asking whether or not, one, they said, why are we allowing, one gentleman was very, very upset why are we allowing students to go hungry? I said, that's not true. If you go and watch the video on this meeting, we specifically state that every student has will not get declined breakfast or lunch, right? They may get a bill at the end, and they said that's why, they may not be going, but I said then we work to get those bills paid for by fundraising. I was then also approached by a group that would like to fundraise for this. And so I'm wondering if we could send out an email ahead of November 1st to just kind of say, no student will be turned away from breakfast or lunch, if that would be the,
So.
but I'm afraid
I
that this
think we're
might
getting a
be
little bit
affecting
away
our,
from the agenda.
well, because I'm feeling that this might affect our attendance with that.
So what I would say, I mean, we could maybe talk
Okay.
more offline, but if a student's family qualifies for SNAP, they automatically get free and reduced lunch. So in terms of, I think if anything, students may be actually more likely to come to school just because they
Right.
know that that meals are going to be provided there.
So that's what you guys are thinking, rather
Yeah.
than a decrease in
Yeah.
attendance? Okay.
Then moving to page 5, the standard 15% of all grade 6-12 students will take part in a work-based learning opportunity appropriate to their grade level. And so there is a work-based learning continuum that spans from, I think it's 3rd grade through 12th grade that the state of Nevada has provided, basically saying these are age-appropriate work-based learning opportunities, whatever they may look like. It might be job shadowing, it may be an internship, it may be having someone come to a class and talk about their career, which might be more common at the elementary level. And so it took us some time to get a system in place to actually start capturing this information. And I would say it definitely still needs to be refined. There's a new software that our CTE program at the high school level is going to be rolling out, but it will be used 6-12 and eventually I think expanded. But the percentage where it seems to have landed was 29.7%. And what in full transparency, when creating this metric and we said 15%, I don't really, we picked a number, we picked a percentage. There wasn't necessarily rhyme or reason other than it's a decent chunk of our kids getting an opportunity. So I think as we continue to refine this number, we might find what really is a good number or a good expectation to have, and then potentially revise that success standard really to be more in line with the reality of the opportunities we're giving our students. So red just signifies it's new to this document. And so then next time when I bring it back, it should be black. So just so it stands out. And then offering 50% of all the high demand pathways. We haven't really changed anything that we're currently offering. So still sitting at 86% of all of the possible high demand pathways that are available in career and technical education. So generally, good numbers. There's clearly more work to do in all areas and ways to improve, but just coming back to you as a part of the district's accountability to the strategic plan and giving you an update.
Well, thank you, AJ, because this is a tool that is going to be very helpful for us to stay focused on, where we need to be, assessing our work. And I know this was a lot of work that you did this last year. We appreciate it. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, never mind. Okay. All righty, I think that is all we needed from that. So agenda item number 13, discussion and possible action to approve the superintendent's evaluation form and the timeline for completing the superintendent's evaluation for the 2025 calendar year. And this is for possible action. So we all have in our packets the evaluation that we need to approve or if anybody has any concerns, this is the time to address it. And then we will also work on the timeline.
I'm not sure that it'd be fair to alter the evaluation rubric at this late date when we're at the point
Ready
now where we
to,
need to fill it
good
out.
point,
So
good point.
that might be recommendations for next
For
year.
next year.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's a good point. Okay, very good. Well, in that case, then we will move on to the timeline. And I will share with you what I have come up with the assistance of Renee.
So,
As-
Ms. President, I'm sorry to
Yes.
interrupt, but you are still going to have to actually approve the form. Even
First,
though you're
before
gonna-
we go into the timeline?
No, it'll be one motion, but you said we'll move on to the timeline. I just want to make sure you understand that. you
Correct,
still
yes,
need a
we will
motion on all of
approve.
it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for correcting me on that. Yes,
So the one suggestion I had with because the superintendent is still going to do a self-evaluation, correct?
correct. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about too.
So on, wait,
You go ahead. Since you brought it up, go ahead.
no, go ahead. We'll
Oh.
wait. It's coming up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, so the dates that I propose, and again, I work with Superintendent Fielding's office to make sure that this would work for them as well. So we will need superintendent's self-evaluation to be submitted to us by the 12th of November. And then we will submit our evaluation to Renee by December 1st. And then that'll give Renee enough time to compile it. And then we will discuss it at the December 9th board meeting. And that's taken consideration, that's taken into account the holidays that we have, the Veterans Holiday and Thanksgiving holiday.
And will we use the Google form like we've done in the past to make it easy
Yes,
on Renee?
yes. That is my understanding. Renee will send it to us. And then we will fill it out and then send it to Renee. And essentially, the electronic version will look like the printout that we received in our packet. How does that sound for the group? Would that work? Okay. Okay, now, going back to Molly's point, we will need superintendent's self-evaluation, and then it would also be helpful, in addition to the self-evaluation that you have provided to us, AJ, it would be helpful if you provide us with a summary of your accomplishments throughout the year, just simply because we know that you've done so much, and that self-evaluation does not cover everything. I think it would be helpful. What does everyone think about? Any other
I agree,
recommendations?
yeah.
Okay.
Another recommendation that I would have is last year's evaluation, like if there were suggestions or, like I was reading it here and it just said, one of the board members mentioned, I recommend that the presentations and data provided to the board throughout the year be more emphasis on how the district, if the superintendent could go back to last year's evaluation and kind of see at any suggestions that board members have, address that in his summary as well, on how those suggestions were implemented or brought forward.
To help with the goals that he accomplished throughout the year? Okay. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, because all of the
Yep.
suggestions or
Okay.
recommendations all went with a goal, and if we're using the same form, it would just be like that, but how were they addressed?
Great. And then on I just want to point out on the superintendent's evaluation form, evaluation overview, that would be in our packet, it would be page number 3, where it says evaluation overview. I just want to point out that's those are the 3 parts that we're going to be completing. And part 3, it says that the final summary sheet is placed in the superintendent's personnel file. So I would recommend that we, include comments about his accomplishments and areas of improvement, because I think that this is how we help him grow in his profession. So I would just put, I wanted to point that one out. Anybody else have any? Oh, I do have a question. The drop down, do you remember, AJ, what that gives us? What information that gives us on the electronic version? It says drop down, like on the professional practice, number 2, on the right-hand side, it says drop down. I was just curious about that one. I guess we'll figure it out on the electronic version.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it, and what it looks like from last year is then the drop down, you put in your number, and then the drop down is your ability to
That's
put
where
in
you select the
comments.
number? Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, and then it looks as though then Renee takes everybody's comment for each practice and puts them all together by paragraph.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And speaking of comments, so at the end of each standard, that's where we are able to provide comments.
And so you can do it for each professional practice, and then at the very end, you can do it for a summary of the goal,
Okay.
of the
Again,
standard.
you're looking at
I'm
the
sorry,
electronic
of the
version, right?
standard.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
Great. And then another thing to note is that when you select superior, you are supposed to provide comments, and then same thing if there was an area of unsatisfactory, you also needed to provide comments. Okay, great. Okay, very good. So, again, this is an agenda, a possible action item, and
I'll
an
move
action item,
that
I
we
should say.
accept the superintendent's evaluation tool and timeline proposed.
Second.
Okay, so motion by trustee Walker and second by trustee Gardner. Any board discussion?
Can you just clarify real quick? The superintendent is the self-assessment by AJ is due what day and by us is due what day?
You bet. So AJ's self-assessment is due by November 12th, and then we need to submit it to Renee by December 1st, and then the board will discuss it at the December 9 meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any additional board discussion?
I think Renee has some clarifying information for us.
Go ahead, Renee.
Lupe, if I could clarify, please. And so I thought Mr. Fueling would submit his self-assessment by November 7th
To you, right?
to me, and then I would then in turn submit that to you guys by the 12th. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we just need to make sure that we know when we are supposed to receive it by
Yep, I'll have it to you then by that November 12th.
November 12th. Yes. Okay. Any public comment? See none? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. And then agenda item number 14, discussion and possible action to cancel the December 23rd, 2025 school board meeting, and this is for possible action. As we all know, our students will be on vacation, and a lot of our staff will also be on vacation, and so that is the reason why we would want to consider this. Yes?
I'm ready
Okay.
for a
Okay,
motion.
all right, go ahead.
I
No
move
no
that-
discussion.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees cancel the December 23rd, 2025 school board meeting.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Michelle, okay. So motion by trustee Wald and second by trustee Peterson. Any board discussion? See none. Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And agenda item number 15, approval of consent agenda. This is for possible action. So motion by trustee Walker and second by trustee Walt. Any board discussion? Excuse me, seeing none. Any public comment? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Agenda item number 16, informational items. And we already have a correction by Superintendent Feeling on the daylight savings time. Any other comments or concerns? Seeing none. Agenda item number 17, request for future agenda topics. Seeing none? Okay. Agenda item number 18, adjournment. Thank you so much, everyone.